Welcome to another rock and roll marching vlog. Yours truly. It is a bit cloudy, kind of cool actually. Temperature dropped by quite a considerable amount of degrees, So here we are, grateful, thankful. My rent's paid, electricity bill's paid, got food and coffee, and marching in these steel-toe boots for the butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, firefighters, construction workers with a backpack. Got those red gloves, by which I am challenging Donald Trump to a boxing match on the Canadian-US border ever since the imposition of tariffs in 2018, of course. And now somebody changing some diapers. I gotta not forget the daycare workers changing some diapers, the firefighters, the plumbers, the electricians, the welders across the North American Civilizational complex, the truckers on the highways. I gotta turn my head left and right, and I admire a little bit of those white flowers there. I think those have a little bit of scent, and they're scented kind of nicely. So got my coffee, and I was delayed by about an hour and a half for my departure. Maybe an hour, 2 hours almost. I was delayed, I'm just gonna drop some garbage there and then be on my way and turn my head left and right again before I cross the street. Got this jacket. I didn't wear it in a while. It's been a while I haven't worn this jacket, so I said today, instead of the blue one, needs a little bit of washing before I put it away. But I see that temperature has dropped now again, so I gotta turn my head left and right, because sometimes, when you cross the street, brakes could potentially malfunction. The citizen driver might press the accelerator instead of the brakes. So those are all things which can occur, can happen, of course, in the transactional side of things. And that's how we're gonna go doing with that, and that's how we're gonna go doing. And gonna say a little bit of that love. My fellow citizen there sent me some of that good loving and nodded the head 3 times. I said hello, smiled, and one of my fellow citizens here, my brothers and sisters, cousins across the North American Civilizational complex, by which who we are, and we gotta give some of that loving with them, and increasing loving kindness, acts of loving kindness, I guess, to the best of our abilities, for what we are in the present tough economic, financial sense. Myself, of course, we are financially stressed, struggling, but paid my rent, paid my electricity bill, almost took gloves also. I said kind of cold. I guess you could use gloves. Put it in the pocket, put the hand in the pocket. I guess you are a bit on the protected side, but it is cool. I know how many degrees. It says 7 when I left, but nonetheless, gotta get out of the way for my fellow senior citizen here, move on the side and wait for the light. Let my fellow citizen pass, because I have the big backpack, so I gotta think about my fellow citizens as well, because I'm in the public, and if I take some space, myself as an individual citizen, and my fellow other citizens, whoever they may be and whoever they may do, in liberty and security and whatever their activities on a daily basis. Me, it's workout, and geopolitics, and rock and roll, and being that I'm neurodivergent, that I live with Asperger's, sometimes the bodily movements which we do are peculiar and odd and weird and eccentric in many ways, and it's just something that I live with. It is neurological mental divergent condition known as Asperger's, HFA, high functioning autism, by which, of course, is a very rare condition. It's not very common. Less than 1%, less than half, 0.44% of the population have Asperger's, and again, it's not common. It's not that common, and that's what I live with, and that's, of course, something which I have to manage. The characteristics, not the symptoms, because it's not a malady, it's not an illness. As 2 days ago, one of my fellow citizens, I had a little bit of conversation, a linguist, and I'm an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, and it's good to exchange, because linguists who speak several languages and who study language, of course, geopolitics, in the world of geopolitics, language and the way communication works, English and French, here myself, English and French, in Quebec, la belle province, those are my main languages, and in my underground room, Austin Temple, has been a little bit of Spanish also, but primarily English, French, Spanish, I guess. the three languages of North America: Mexico, Canada, United States. Some official, some not, but there's many other languages which I'm always willing to learn a little bit. But nonetheless, that was the case where my fellow citizen made the mistake and said it's a sickness, it's an illness, it's a sickness. In French, because we had the conversation in French, he said it's a maladie, sickness, illness, you know, the French word for sickness and illness, which is not. So that's the confusion, the misunderstanding about what Asperger's is. It's just that we have a mutation in the brain, you know. And so my daily activities, I wish I could fill this fridge up one day. Just fill it up, you know, just give a donation and just fill the whole fridge. Just fill it up, you know. Fill the whole fridge with some goods. Hugs I got, kisses I got. Money I don't, but you know, I'm financially stressed. Always open for business, always open for business, always open for business and pleasure, you know. And I'm part of the LGBTQ community, androgynous, pansexual, ASP. So Asperger's, again, is not a mental illness. It is just that I have to always manage sometimes my communications and can be weird, and when you interact with Aspies, and again, we're part of a tiny, small minority, fraction of a population, and so that's really what I gotta do, what I do on a daily basis. You know, it's geopolitical theoretical analysis and admiring the little flowers on the way to my marches. And of course, we have Aspies have special interest, and my special interest is the Holy Trinity, geopolitics 24/7. And even this morning, I spent, I guess, 3 hours. I delayed. I said I'm gonna leave at 8:30, then I'm gonna leave at 9, then I'm gonna leave at 9:30, then at 10:15, and finally I left at 10:30. You know, so I guess 3 hours of delay maybe, and I just focused on what's happening in India, Pakistan, and analyzing the escalation. There's an escalation, of course, considerable escalation in the conflict, which of course is due to the recent terrorist attack in Pahalgam and Kashmir. And of course, the other point of geopolitical concern, our main point here, is the Canada-United States relations, which have, of course, suffered a little bit of that blow, a little bit of that unsport, so I'm going to call it in the North American way, because I'm a North American, Canadian, Quebecer, North American, and I was born in the United States 3 times post 70-76, once as a woman, twice as a man, you know, and served in the United States Army, and get it on that United States Armed Forces for the go, and get it on the United States Armies for the go, and the rock and roll, and that's what it is for the butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, firefighters, and these lovely flowers there. So I gotta love me some of that pink. You know, I love yellow flowers with that. Which way to go? East, west, north, south, I guess. Yesterday we went to the mountain, and today I'm gonna go by the river. So I'm gonna just go, I'm gonna take a turn, I'm gonna go by the river. Just go by the river, because I went to the mountain yesterday, I went to the mountain the other day, and we often go to the mountain, my second home, the mountain, Mount Royal, but I guess now it could be time to go a little bit on the river, or I was even gonna go on the north side. Maybe I'll change my mind and I'll go like a snake a little bit, change my mind on the way, you know, because I have, actually we have routines, ritualized like routines, but I don't mind change, and I'm pretty flexible and change, but you know, as long as I do some, actually I have to do a few hours a day of geopolitical theoretical analysis and working out and training and exercising and rock and roll on the way. And now I'm in the public, so I got added responsibilities and obligations, and enough, I guess, of my face, because I guess maybe you had enough with that. And just gonna focus the feet, which are dancing on the toes, because dancing is my favorite sport. So back to Asperger's again. If you're an Aspie, and I gotta give a shout out to fellow Aspie who sent a few months ago $25.44. So I got some dollars, and I spent on food, primarily food, and I think I got a bottle of wine. $8.60 bottle of wine. I have good memory, but I have good memory of the past 7 years, 7, 8 years, 9. Then 10, 11, I get a blackout. It's like retrograde amnesia. And I used to live in a moldy place, lots of mold on the ground underneath. So I guess I died there. I moved, and in 2017, before that, I was depressed and suicidal. And being depressed and suicidal, I crossed Canada coast to coast, coast to coast, coast to coast, and due to that I crossed Canada coast to coast, that event made me come out of being depressed, being suicidal. I established a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians, brothers and sisters, Quebecers. I consider my family Canadians as well, and my brothers and sisters in the USA, and all who come to join us here in the North American Civilizational Collective, of which we are a civilizational complex. North America, we constitute a civilizational complex, you know, the great North American Civilizational Complex, and 9 million Quebecers, you know, speaking that French, and 40, I guess 44, is it 44 plus? Almost 45, almost 45 million in Canada now because of the past immigration, which in the past has been a massive increase in immigration in Canada, and since February 2020, when I had and I survived COVID, and I died also during COVID, and in 2017 I crossed Canada coast to coast. That event really changed my life. Since then I established a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians, and they are my family, and I'm for the North American Collective, a philosopher, artist, athlete, and geopolitical theoretical honest and theorist who's not perfect, far from it. You know, you got some paint there, fresh paint, that's always nice. Put some work, and I had many jobs, many works, many employments. Oh, there's some donations there. That's for the children, I guess, the core. That's cool, something can be used of that. So my temple room is small, so I cannot really put anything much, you know. It's already full house, I guess, and it's something which I cannot stress to get a little bit of clutter, I guess. And Aspies, we require a certain, because Asperger's, you know, just because of our special interests, because of certain things, unfortunately with Asperger's within the Aspie community, there's a high unemployment rate. There's a high unemployment rate. The unemployment rate is very high. Look at those beauties on those, just wow, purple. Wow, these ones too are so beautiful. Just brings my whole smile. A big smile. My smile just doubled now, you know. And especially yellow flowers like this, which I love. So again, back to Asperger's again. It's not a mental illness, you know. It's a neurological mental divergent condition which makes me predisposed, you know, to special interest, and those, or aka obsessive interest. But to use the word obsessive does not render justice to what those interests are for us as Aspies. And yes, I can be pretty intense, pretty focused. I am pretty intense and focused and concentrated, especially when I go on my long marches and working out, training, exercising, or when I do my boxing or workout, although dancing is my favorite sport. So of course I am involved in those activities. In those activities which I am involved the most is geopolitical study and analysis, and I'm an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, and of course artist, athlete, and philosopher, and that's what it is with that, and that's how we're gonna go do it, you know. So it's something which I gotta be, seeing what it is donated here. Do I need? Do I don't need? There's no caps though. There's no caps. One has a cap. I don't really need, do I? I gotta wash my hands. Do have caps, I guess. There's no caps. I have to wash my hands. Somebody needs, I guess that's for recycling. And there's a third one. Hold on, I'm gonna take 3. They have caps and see which one it goes. And over there, that side, and merci, thank you. My fellow citizen here, you know, with the, gotta say a good smile, and please give him a little bit of a rock and roll, you know. Give him a little bit of tickets. Wall Street, don't be so selfish. Millionaires, the public workers who build their backs, you know. It's a tough job, you know, pulling and physical job and mind and body for the public workers. Please, millionaires, billionaires, and give them a little bit of money. Finance them a massage therapy session. That's what I mean, you know, the public workers who smile, nodded at me when I passed by. Fellow citizen, and You know, I always love to see work, and I love work. I love work activities, and I love being fit and exercising and physically active. Especially since I crossed Canada 2017, that really came out of my depression. I'm gonna take a round turn here. I'm gonna go roundabout here. I'm gonna check those flowers. So that is beautiful. So please, Wall Street mayonnaise, finance the public workers, some massage therapy session. I wish I could afford a massage therapy session, but I'm gonna just take a bath, you know. So I'm gonna take a bath and I'm gonna cross, and I think that's a magnolia tree there. Magnolia tree, yeah, pretty much looks like one. Magnolia tree there, you know. So magnolia tree in the corner that you see with a squirrel on the rock and roll, you know, you kiss the petals on the metal that you see. Magnolia, that white on the purple, that's the right. Beautiful magnolia trees, man, in Montreal, Hawk Island, Montreal. So please, Wall Street millionaires of North America, finance those who pick up the garbage, the recycling, finance them a little bit of that good massage therapy session. They deserve it and earn it more than yours truly. That was something which, you know, I would love to see people do and doing on the other side, and that's what we're gonna get doing, you know. So something which we gotta be, you know, appreciating the public workers and those who pick up the garbage, and later on it's gonna be the compost. And here the daycare workers, I guess, gotta cheer for them as well, changing those diapers, and the public workers and those firefighters, the butchers, the electricians, you know, as I go on the backpack. And here they're celebrating 20, what is that? I gotta check my eyes again. I see blurred there, see? Celebrating 25 years of service. It's service, you know, that's why the Dragon Army for the SSD, security service and defense, to be for the 21st century is what I'm calling for the creation thereof by a public-private partnership. Please, Wall Street, millionaires, give a little bit of that charity. Give a little bit of 10% for the firefighters, the nurses, public workers. Those public workers, I got 3 services in the public, which my neighborhood is picking up the garbage, the recycling, and the compost. Those 3 services are part of yours truly neighborhood in Montreal, Hawk Island. And the garbage is Monday, recycling is early in the morning, garbage is in late afternoon, evening, after 5 p.m. and before 8 a.m. is the recycling, and today after 5 p.m. is the compost. So I'm gonna go get back home by 5 today, and in order to take it out, because I don't want to do more than six hours, because I tripled 6 at yesterday. Yesterday was 6 hours and 44 minutes. So the other day before 6 hours and 36 minutes. And the other way is like 6 hours. Monday was 6 hours and 10 minutes. So I try to average the minimum 20 hours per week. But the week of the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom, my dream for a public-private partnership for the fusion of Canada and the North American Collective thereof. Pledge your legions. Our family, friends with benefits only. Thanks you for understanding, and that's how we're gonna get doing with that, and that's how we're gonna get on that rock and roll. So here we are on the life, and we're gonna put it because I'm gonna clean them in the river, and I'm gonna clean my hands when I get to the river or on the way there, because it's on the way, and gotta disinfect those hands. And there's some jars, and put them in the backpack. See, in the backpack I got this, actually this, and in case it gets colder. It's kind of chilly, and I got the red gloves, see. Thank you to my anonymous friend who donated these red gloves back in 2018 when I first challenged Donald Trump to a boxing match on the Canadian-US border, and let's build that North American People's Imperial Coliseum. My call, of course, check past videos, and I am calling for the building of the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, a majestic, the biggest sports venue, sports arena, sports coliseum, sports coliseum in the world, to be for sportis in perpetuitis, for sports in perpetuity. That was going to be the motto of the coliseum, sportis in perpetuitis, or fitness 24/7, sports 24/7, and to be 11 times bigger than the Caesar Superdome where the hardball ball was played, aka the blackout ball. And of course the other one was built, and where it was done, of course, was before that the name was the Mercedes Super Bowl, and of course Mercedes It was known as the Mercedes-Benz Arena, and now it's known as the Caesar Superdome. So it's one of my Super Bowls, one of my top 5 favorite Super Bowls was played there. One of my top 5 Super Bowls was played there. One of my top 5 Super Bowls was played there, and that's what it is with that, and that's what we gotta get doing with that, you know. So it's something which we gotta get doing on that love, you know. So that's what we gotta get doing, you know. Something which we gotta get doing for the butchers and the bakers, and I love a little bit of that nice young color, so that's what we gotta get doing on that, you know. So something which we gotta get doing on that, you know, friendly for the love, and gotta get it for that, and so we gotta get doing with that. Not a problem. Rock and roll, rainbow loving, you know. Just ask policy. And yesterday I had a proposal from a fellow member of the LGBTQ community, because I'm pansexual. On the way we spoke just a few minutes, and I said, well, listen, next time, because we just met, and you know, I get it, you don't have time to waste. You want it straight back to doing some homo loving. So I was willing, I guess a bit older, but said he just met, but his phone didn't work to take my number down. So I said, damn, phone number. So I said, if we ever meet again, I pass there often, and that's it. That's all. Rock and roll, and give a little hug, a little rub, and little fellow homos, you know, because friends with benefits only. Friends with benefits only, and consent hygiene, you know. Back to what I was saying, because the light I saw a little bit of, there was kind of a rainbow flag there, that's there, so that made me think of LGBTQ interaction. But yeah, I've been out of the closet for years and years and years now, you know. I have videos, you know, with me dancing, going into the Pride parade, and I made friends with benefits, and I made some friends, but I lost them easy, because Asperger's, you know, is something which you have to realize that Asperger's is a neurological mental divergent condition which can cause a lot of obstacles in friendships, in employment, and whatever the case may be, you know, whatever the case may be with that. So even in unemployment, you know, is unemployment which we gotta be doing on the unemployment level, because unemployment is very high, you know, with fellow Aspies, you know. With fellow Aspies, the unemployment is very high. I'm gonna get out of the way of my fellow workers, because I don't want to impede, you know. If I pass through there with my backpack, you gotta go get it on that. And see here, the beautiful majestic. Gotta turn my head, and that's all we gotta get doing with that, and gotta pass it on the go, you know. They're gonna get it on that, and that's all we gotta get doing, man. Oh, I admire that. Hey, vitre miroir. So what that says in French is mirrors and glass, you know, the glass work. It's French, you know, la belle province, because we like our French, you know. So if you ever need translation and Donald Trump, we're gonna get it on the go, and that's all we're gonna get doing on that, and that's all we gotta get doing on the go. So something which we gotta admire, and admire that type of work, admire that work, because it's complementary to what I know. Even now, see firefighters go. And the firefighters, they're part of the North American civilizational complex. Please, millionaires, finance them a little bit of massage therapy session and a little bit of rock and roll, and that's what it is. And the bus. See how my Aspie brain works? Because I have a mutation in the brain. Aspies, our brain is there's a variation, there's a mutation in the brain, right? So this mutation makes our brain different, and we are different. Certain things such as personal space, we can approach and get so close to citizens that they might have fear, they might feel intimidated, they might feel threatened, or, you know, because it's just things like that are simple for others. Maintenance of 3 feet, or a foot, whatever, a meter, whatever, in meters, feet, yards, whatever the case. The personal distance, you know, like personal distance. An Aspie might get close to 2-3 inches, a few 6-5 centimeters, 11 centimeters, very close to the face or close to the body, very close to a certain. So that's a characteristic of Asperger's. Another one is repeating things 2-3 times, or echolalia, or overly being verbose about a special topic. If you come discuss with me geopolitics, I can revise the Cold War from the beginning in 1947 March to the end in December 26, 1991, and we can discuss. I can make errors, but generally that's my kingdom, my domain, geopolitics. And even now I saw the firefighters, saw those workers, and I see the bus drivers. My brain focuses on putting myself as a macro individual, in the complexities of the geopolitical regions which we have now, and the geopolitical events of we have now. How are they affected by the tariffs? Which was a mistake geopolitically, because geopolitically, I said, and I will repeat, that our main interest as Quebecers, Canadians, politicians, colonies, to have the best, most cordial, friendly economic, military, social, cultural, diplomatic, security relations with my brothers and sisters in the United States, with the U.S. relations. That is vice versa for the U.S., the United States. Your geopolitical interest is vice versa, reciprocal for you to have the best, cordial, friendly, cultural, economic, social, cultural, business at all levels with Canada. If the king is absent. Canadians, fellow Canadians, the king is absent. The king is absent. It's time for the Republic. Who would be going to cross the border if there would be an invasion in the U.S.? Rainbow Dragon rock and roll in steel toe boots with, I would go running if there's an invasion from the east or from the west. It's not the King Charles. That's illusions. Those are just illusions, And it's the construction workers, the firefighters, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, Hydro-Quebec workers, the plumbers, the electricians, those workers there, changing some of that good aqueducts there, and that's how we gotta get doing with that, the aqueducts and whatever the case may be, It's their work, That's how we get those illusions, because myself have struggled, suffered. I live with scars, with retrograde amnesia, memory loss, I was attacked. I have trauma, and plenty of scars on the body. And here I am, 8th of May, doing another vlog, another work, and meditating, and also interjecting, which we gotta be doing on that. And that's how we gotta get doing, So it's something which we gotta get doing on the go, so something which we gotta be affirmative in the life affirming manner that I want and will to experience lots of love and lots of hug, and I love to matchmake, but I have no pretense. I am not totally altruistic. I don't make pretense to be. I love my wafers, my chocolates. I love my wafers, my chocolates, I love bacon, I love, hamburgers, cheeseburgers, and good food, and good comedy, good laugh, although my comedy is Aspi peculiar, Because Asperger's is just the mutation of the brain. So that mutation of the brain, there's no medication for that. It's just constantly we have to work on the symptoms, on the correction, on the characteristics, which some call symptoms. Some call symptoms, but I don't use that word. It's characteristics. Symptoms is for an illness, a malady. Characteristics of Asperger's, and I always have to build bridges. Sometimes it can be pretty direct and straightforward, and sometimes it can be pretty polite with that. And I cultivate politeness and well-being and kindness, but I will the same, because if it's not reciprocal, then I mind my business, you mind your business. And Aspies were pretty much, the motto is fundamental to, without affirming it on a daily basis, that's pretty much what Aspies we do, consequently, because we have our ritual routines, right? But we're not totally, myself as an individual, from an individual part of the Aspie community speaking, not for the whole collective, because there's not a lot of Aspies. I am especially economic, financial, commercial change, and I've changed a lot. It took me years and years and years to accept that I'm different, because I've been told, you're different, you have Asperger's, and people don't understand, and they think it's a mental illness, and I've been diagnosed several times, but finally I said, yeah, about 45 months ago, so I have to work on it constantly. I'm gonna go hydrate. Here it is, see? Here's the piéton, so here in theory they gotta stop for that, see? Because it's piéton here, so you gotta get permission to pass. Anyways, even now, see how my N.A.C.W.P brain works? My N.A.C.W.P brain works. I see this. This is a train station, public train station. So now my Asperger brain focuses on geopolitics, and how this, not just this specific train station, but all train stations of Montreal, public transit direct to the greater sphere of the North American Collectif, from Montreal to Quebec to Canada to North America as a whole, that our public transport systems are open for espionage and sabotage from exterior outside forces, because we meddled, we got interference, and we interfered in a military manner, not just in humanitarian, economic, financial manner. We provided arms to several conflicts, so that made of us potential enemies. And another conflict on the horizon now, I guess the India-Pakistan conflict has started. Nuclear war might happen May 18th. We might have martial law May 19th. The US, Canada. And let's get that Dragon Army for SSD. I predicted what's happening now back in 2019. As much as I suffered, struggled, I suffered, struggled, and all the suffering, the struggle which I had, is parallel to where I live now. Because I carpe diem it every day. Carpe diem it every day. Carpe diem it every day. But that carpe diem is, of course, consequentially, as now I think of my philosophies written in the past years, is because I see 911 there, gotta get that philosophy for the new 911 integrated North American Dragon 911 protocols, which I started writing about 2016. 2016, 2015, with the whole terrorism, because of the group there, the Islamic State, or whatever names we give it. Islamic State, there was several cases, and there's a resurgence in the past weeks, and all the other, consequently, all my work is for the geopolitical complex of North America, of which our public transport is open for potential sabotage and espionage. And my protocols and philosophies are, of course, called the new 911 Dragon Army protocols for total security and total service, for total security and total service, for total security and total service, which I've, of course, discussed in the past years, briefly or more in depth, in my philosophies, in my marches for the implementation thereof, which I'm calling on the manifestation of the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, which is fundamentally a call for a public-private partnership. Let me hydrate a bit. Thank you, workers. Imagine all the work to have this running water. Thank you, public workers, who are there changing the aqueducts. So it's labor, work, brains and muscles, sweat, eh? That's it, that's all, and that's what I will to paint here. Bring me the paint, and I'll paint here. Bring me so much joy to paint. Just the, paparazzi and the bureaucracy aside, and I think a nice embellishment would be worthy of some color here, because there's so much circulation, young and old, especially the youth, because the children and the youth are innocent, so my dream for the public-private partnership was the fusion of Canada and United States for the 63, for the creation of the complementary covenant and cooperative institution of the Dancing Goddess Army, aka North American Integrated Dance League, and the Dragon Army, the North American Integrated Security Service and Defense Force for the SSD. And here would love to paint in all blue, yellow, red. Just bring me the paint, and I'll put the paint and provide the paint here, and do it a lot of painting. I'm gonna keep on painting all the way to the other side. That's something that I want to say. That's what I would love to do here. That's what it is with that, That's what it is. And yeah. that's what it is with that, and that's what it is with the XYZ, and that's what we're gonna get doing, you know. So it's something which we gotta get doing, you know. Yeah. That's what we gotta get doing, man, you know. It's something which we gotta get doing with that, and that's how we gotta get that painting, you know, for the embellishment of the city, you know, for the embellishment of the city. And we gotta get that rock and roll, we gotta get that rock and roll, and that's how we gotta get it for the public workers, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, and the doctors, the firefighters, and all those, you know, involved in the production, distribution of food. That's what we gotta get doing with them, and that's what we gotta get doing on that. And so we gotta get doing for the love, you know, and give them a little bit of that X, a little bit of that love, and that's how we gotta get doing on that, you know. So it's something which we gotta be now, interjection, and that's how we gotta get doing on that love, getting on the go, and something which we gotta hope for the sun. Myself, the Publik King, the sun. Last time, yesterday it came. It pierced the clouds, you know. It pierced the clouds, and that's how we gotta get doing, you know. I would love to paint that tunnel, really. Some blue, some purple, some whatever the case may be, and that's how we gotta get doing with that, and that's how we gotta get doing for the love, you know. So it's something which we gotta interject, something which we gotta be love inside, and that's how we gotta get doing like that, and so we gotta get doing, man. Takes going, takes doing, takes thinking, and being, you know. It's being, you know. And sometimes I guess, you know, some illusions fall, you know, because you see, during COVID, which I had and I survived, and COVID, you know, made it a little bit of that and a little bit of that XYZ, and that's what we gotta get doing for that, you know. COVID here, you know. I survived COVID in 2020. In February, March, I was really sick and diseased, and that's why I survived it, and I take nothing for granted, you know. Nothing for granted, and every day carpe diem, and every day I died during COVID, and being reborn with each march, each meditation. And as much as all the suffering, loss of employment I had, I've of course had so much loss of employment, and that's what it is with that, and that's how we're gonna get doing with that, you know. So something which we gotta be doing, yeah. And all the butchers, the train conductors, the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, you know, the plumbers, the electricians, gotta think about them. The Gifts and Charity Wall Street is something which we gotta be focused on. And now I kind of changed my mind. I said I was gonna go check how much in the red I am, but I'm not even gonna go. Maybe I kind of changed my mind. I'm gonna cross and switch it on the other side, drop again some garbage, because gotta get on that garbage go, and here I gotta get the priority to pass, and from the other citizen driver. Although I always turn and make sure with the head, you know, because sometimes just trash you go, and that's for the flavor. And thank you those garbage collectors, public sanitation of the mega cities. Imagine all the labor, the work has been done, you know, to fix the roads. Civilization really is a privilege, and my contribution would be paint a lot, or as a geopolitical theoretical analyst in tears in terms of philosophy and action in these vlogs, always for the firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, truckers, financially stressed, those who made less than 33,000, you know, 33,000. That's what we gotta get doing with that. And for all those who made less than 33, I survived on 11,000, you know. 11,000. Last year, 2024, survived on less than 11,000. Money is to buy, sell. I would love to paint that. Really something blue, red, green, blue, red, green, and that's what it is with that, and that's how we gotta get doing with that, you know. That's what it is, and we need to get for total security and total service to get new installation of the 5G, 6G, across North America, and we need to do a great census. So we need to do a great census, Canada, United States joint, and beautiful yellow flowers here, and gonna get out of the way for my fellow citizens taking over the sidewalk. I guess they built, you know, they built North America. Gotta get them some respect. And I had the love, privilege, opportunity, and experience. I worked in a senior citizens home during COVID. I worked a few months, and a few months in that, and that's what we gotta get doing with that. And I was of service, you know, so I really had an experience with that. And you know, it was a probation period, and that's what it is with that. And that's what we gotta get doing on the love. And here we gotta get it for the cinema, and you know, it's something which we gotta interject, and some things which we gotta do, and that's what we gotta get doing for that. And we gotta get doing on the love. But yeah, I'm different, you know, I'm different, and I am hyper vigilant, you know, hypervigilance, because I've been attacked by surprise a few years ago in the Montreal Underground Metro. And you know, I don't fear gangsters, and you come against me, you make sure you don't miss. Come against me, you make sure you don't miss. If you come against me, make sure you don't miss. Nobody's born a dragon, not even myself. And they're black, white, men, women. Want to do some loving, exchange some saliva. Consent, you gotta be 18. You gotta be 18 for that. You gotta be 18, and that's all we gotta get doing with that. So you gotta be 18. 18 for that, and we gotta be 18 for that, and you gotta watch it for your safety here. Safety and security, you know, because we got that good Samaritan law, you know. We got that good Samaritan law, and we gotta get it on the go, so it's always on the now, so that's all we gotta get doing. Press the button there. And of course, I always admire cranes. Gotta see how the construction workers build it there, the buildings, and that's why they're gonna build the buildings with that, and that's why we're gonna go get that XYZ, and we gotta get it for the love, and see for the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, firefighters there to go. And I will to build a forgotten goddess temple, GODDSS. I can twerk and massage and kiss and wash some feet for it. And the North American People's Imperial Coliseum to be on the Canadian-US border. Canadian-US border for that. And get safe back home, and black, white, man, woman, you want to come LOV. We do some loving, but you gotta be 18, you know. I'm gonna card you like you're gonna go, when you go take the cigarettes, when you go buy the alcohol, when you go buy the cigarettes, the booze, the liquor. That's how we're gonna play it. I'm gonna card you. And that's red. Kind of like it. It's here. I guess somebody, if I see it again tomorrow or the other day, if somebody comes and finds it, and I'm gonna take it. But otherwise, it's nice. Otherwise, it should be recycled. So, I'm gonna put a little bit of the garbage, you know. Gotta put a little bit of garbage there and admire a little bit of that work. Construction workers on steel toes, and get home back safe. And that's it. That's all with that. And yeah, I'm gonna put the heads. Where am I getting this trash from? I have accumulation of trash there, you know. So that's all we gotta get doing with that. Anyways, so back to what I was saying. Of course, Asperger's. If you're black, white, rainbow, men and women, you know, you gotta get it on the do, and you gotta get it on the go with that, and gotta get it for the lovers, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, and the firefighters, you know, the firefighters, and you know, we gotta be meditating on that, because due to the fact that I got a card, if you want to come loving, whether you're a man, a woman, black, white, rainbow, whatever, well, come do that rainbow loving, black, white, men, women, you know, I am pansexual, so gotta get on that rock and roll with that rainbow dragon, post. So whatever the case may be, you gotta get carded 18 plus. Just like if you're required to get the cards when you buy liquor, when you buy booze, whatever you purchase. When you buy cannabis is legal. Marijuana has been legal since 2019 across Canada, and we got the best here in Quebec, homegrown, Montreal, on the island of Montreal. We grow the best cannabis, the best, top. So I don't smoke much, me very rarely. As a matter of fact, I haven't smoked in a while now, months and months and months. And before that, it was years and years. And I had some. I said I'm better start doing a little bit of that, maybe this weekend a bit, you know. If you want to commission a video, me smoking some legal, feel free. You know, we can make a little bit of that rock and roll rap for the commission, or some freestyle smoking if you want to be seeing yours truly, Rainbow Dragon, smoking some legal cannabis. Commission it, PayPal, and I'll dedicate it, blah blah, to your name, because I'm financially struggling financially, stressed, and struggling financially at the moment, no money. But see, that's the problem with Asperger's. It's not a problem, it's a characteristics. We tend to focus on weird details. Now, what is the point? Because this drew my attention. As I have tattoos, which I don't remember when I got them. I got Canada, I got the eye. I got pyramid. I got pyramid and the eye, and I got Canada tatted up, and I got a lion. And I wonder, why is the number 11 there? 11, and here's 44. See, 0044. So I'm curious to the significance of this. So that's a detail that some would say, what the fuck? What WWTF? What WTF? What F is going on? But nonetheless, I was wondering about that. What is the point of having that number 44 and 11 blacked out a bit, just like my memory? Because if I go back more than so my memory, there's a blackout of my memory more than 11 years. So if I go more than 11 years, there's a blackout. I remember mostly my life during COVID. Then when I crossed Canada 2017, and before that I was depressed and suicidal, and then moving from a moldy underground place and having survived being attacked by surprise, hit my head on the concrete in the Montreal Metro, and had a dislocated right arm. And that dislocated right arm, I went, and at the Jewish General Hospital, it was replaced. It was kind of put back. Well, it was put back, and I was put on some medications, and I had my own. I was like in a coma for a few days, you know, coma-like state for a few days on those meds, and I guess pain. So I survived that, and but I have memory loss. Sometimes it comes back. Paradoxically, you lose it by trauma and you regain it by trauma. But I don't want to hit my head again against any metal, concrete, or baseball bats. Or the only thing on my head to hit me on my head is black or white or rainbow penises. Black or white or rainbow penises. Black or white or rainbow penises. So there it is. Now I see, in the context of the geopolitical theorizing, geopolitical aspects of where we are today. See, my brain switched. I was discussing a personal issue. Now I get depersonalized, and my mind switches to geopolitics. What I know about this train is three main things. One, that it's going east. Second, that I gotta salute the train conductor and the ones who build the railways and the trains. So I gotta pay a little bit of respect to those who build them. And third is that this is open for potential espionage and sabotage from outside exterior forces. And the fourth dimension to that trinity, that it's vital and crucial for many families across Quebec, Montreal, Island, Hawk Island of 2.5 million people, and for potentially millions of people, and thousands, hundreds, and it might carry liquid natural gas or liquid, which can good for the cars to go to the job, to go to employment, to go grocery shopping, to whatever we do, because we got the trains, we got the cars, we got the airplanes in the sky. So that's this privilege of civilization. So now my mind meditates potential for espionage and sabotage by outside exterior forces. So you see again how geopolitics is a constant on my daily activities. And now I tend to do a lot of deep meditation, and potentially who those who would do the espionage and the sabotage would be, right? And there would be several, and how they could do it, they could also employ outside underworld criminal forces, outside underworld criminal forces. So the interference from the exterior of the North American collective, that's what we gotta get doing. From the exterior of the North American collective, and I gotta send some LOV to the firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, all those involved in the production, distribution of food, and all those who gotta get doing on that with the labor of love or labor of lust. Lust and love are both intermingled, you know. I lust a lot, but my rainbow lusts and gotta be 18 plus, you know. And if I can satisfy anybody with whatever, just 18 plus, service, you know. But 18 though, I'm speaking about adults here, not speaking about, I'm gonna send you, if you don't qualify for buying cannabis legal or legal alcohol or wine, then you don't qualify to come make love with me, man. Black or white or rainbow. That's just, I'm gonna send you to find somebody your own age. There's a border, there's a door. You gotta come back when you qualify to buy legal cannabis and whatever. Train conductors, firefighters, plumbers, bakers, electricians, and those grocery store clerks. We gotta get doing with that, and that's all we gotta get doing. So myself as an individual, part of the collective with my own neurodivergence, financial stress, scars, memory loss, survived being depressed, being suicidal, and always meditating now as I go, you know, east, west, north, south, as I cross different paths. So we're gonna do the opposite of what we did last week. Last week, remember, we went by the sides like that. So we went by the side and we came by that side here, and now we're gonna do on the other side, you know. So we're gonna do basically the opposite of going roundabout by the river. By the river. I guess I gotta wait. Maybe I could go by that side. Okay, I'm gonna go by that side. So I don't really have to wait there. I'm just gonna go like gonna turn around here by a snake, you know, like a snake, and turn my head left and right, and there we go. We're gonna interject, and so now I'm gonna discuss a little bit of geopolitics and forget, you know, forget the things that, you know, yeah, okay, I'm androgynous, pansexual, 50-50 man, woman. I was born as a woman, sometimes in past lives incarnation as a man, you know, sometimes a man, a woman, a man, and you get that 50-50 now. And, you know, in the USA, was born 3 times, once as a woman, twice as a man, served in the United States Armed Forces twice, and I was born a man 156 years apart. And of course, I am 50-50, and that's what it is with that, and that's what we gotta get doing. That might be a hawk, H-A-W-K in the sky. Gotta check it up close, because from far up, it's not that easily discernible. So now, yes, that I have Asperger's is important, because Asperger's makes me predisposed to those special interests and other characteristics. And yes, had lost much employment, much business opportunity, much employment, much business opportunity, much employment, much business, much employment, much business opportunity due to the ASP neurodivergence that my brain is mutated. And ASPs I'm part of the small tiny minority. It's way less than how many LGBTQ citizens are in North America. 0.44%, not even half of a percentile, not even 1%, less than 1%, less than half of a percentile. Oh, there's got to be cleaning here, because it's for children. I don't want to play in that mess. So public sanitation, we got to do some of that Dragonomy, you know, and we got to rebuild the ghettos. We got to rebuild the ghettos of North America. The ghetto, we're going to rebuild the North American inner urban cities, and we're gonna rebuild the ghettos, you know, together. We're gonna rebuild the ghettos together and mass invest, public-private partnership, and get for security and service, you know, get for that SSD, and that's what we gotta get doing with that, and gonna get it for the rebuilding thereof, you know, in the consequential matters of where we are now. That's what we gotta get doing, man. Just gonna throw a little bit of garbage here. I don't know how much I have of the garbage inside, you know. I kept finding another bag. I'm like, whoa, how much? I think that's it. Do I still have another one? They're hidden. Anyway, so yeah, we're gonna have to rebuild the North American inner urban cities, aka the ghettos, together by the DRT, the debt refusion theory. We're gonna have to. So that's what we're gonna have to do, and that's how we're gonna have to be on that hydration and get on that workout and get on that theory and get on the go, you know, and mass rebuilding myself. I died a few times, you know. I died myself a few times, you know. Having died a few times, being reborn, and nothing that I will to go back to, but just living for today, you know, and for tomorrow with hope. And I believe my protocols give a little bit of a leeway to what needs to be done of where we are today. You know, you see our infrastructure. We have North America. It's on the verge of a collapse. A lot of it. So that's where my DRT comes in, the debt refusion theory. But now I just want to discuss a little bit of geopolitics. So leave kind of the baggage at the door, you know. So from a Quebecer, Canadian, North American perspective, our main geopolitical interest is to have the best, most cordial relations with our brothers and sisters in the United States. That's just the way it is. So there's no way around this situation. There's no way. This is a constant, like the pi mathematical principle. You know, the number for the circumference for a circle is 3.1416. 3.1416, and that is always a constant. That's always a constant, you know. That's always a constant, so that doesn't change, that doesn't fluctuate, you know. That is always a constant, 24/7, 24/7, 24/7. So see, now my brain goes to meditates about the trucking, all the trucks transporting across the North American Collective, east, west, north, south, Canada, United States, Mexico, and all the goods. Some are going east, some are going west, some are going north, some are going south. That says it got fresh fruits on it. So if you got fresh fruits, it's vital for the family, you know, because food security starts with the farmers, food producers, and is transported by the trucks. So my brain now puts it from the micro perspective myself. We'll get that food security I got food security for now, for the coming days and weeks, you know. I could probably stretch it for, even if I don't buy food, if I stretch everything I have, I could probably survive with my current level of fitness activities that I do daily, which is intense and concentrated and very physical, active lifestyle, probably 44 days. Maybe more than 44 days. If I stretch it more and I don't work out as much, then yeah, more. But with the current level of physical activity, that's my estimation, because I kind of know what I have, you know, in terms of pasta, beans, and whatever the case may be, in terms of whatever the case we are here. So the North American Collective is we need to come together in the public-private partnership and implement my DRT, debt refusion theory, for the creation of the UE, the Universal Exchange Unit. Got to get that public workers, that's recycling. And you know, now my mind goes to geopolitical strategies for defense, because my theories and protocols, they have to be understood that they are only and solely for defense, security service. Defense for the North American Collective, for Canada coast to coast, and US and the United States coast to coast, for Canada coast to coast and the United States coast to coast. So that is basically what it is, for Canada and the United States, you know, for Canada and the United States, for Canada and the United States, for Canada and the United States. That's what we're gonna do with that, and that's how we're gonna do with the XYZ, and we're gonna get on that go with that, you know. So something which we gotta be interjecting, and we gotta be on that side of things. And you see, our infrastructure is collapsing. We got a lot of work in the infrastructure to do. We got a lot of work. So that's where my debt refusion theory, the DRT, comes in, you know. That is the DRT, the debt refusion theory. That is something which we have to do. The DRT, the debt refusion theory. The debt refusion theory for the creation of the UE, you know. That's what we gotta get doing with that. So the DRT, the debt refusion theory, That's all we gotta be implementing, and that's all we gotta do. As I do an analysis of whatever the case may be, you see how they were built there, how the building was done, and they've done a lot of building, but it looks like it needs a lot of redoing, you know. Look at that beautiful, beautiful, beautiful yellow truck. Okay, so back to geopolitics. So geopolitics. Now, this has to be yes. The following statement, there has to be yes from the left, from the right, or from the center. I'm not discussing extreme right or extreme left or far right or far left here. Left, right, and center from a North American perspective, left, right, and center though, because we are part of Western civilization, but we have our distinctions, right? So we are distinct, not divorced. So we have our distinctions, but we're not divorced. So we're distinct, but not divorced from Western civilization. So being distinct, but not divorced from Western civilization, that is something that we gotta be meditating upon. That's part of my philosophies, and of course my philosophies are for the North American integrated collective vis-a-vis the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, which is my call for the public-private partnership manifestation thereof, starting for today and for tomorrow. So from a North American perspective, from a Canadian, Quebecer, Canadian perspective, our main interest is to have the best, most cordial relations with our brothers and sisters in the United States. Economic, financial, military, social, commercial, cultural, defense, security, service, finance, business, all science, otherwise. To have the best, most cordial, our primary interest, geopolitical interest, is to have the best relation with the United States. Not to pledge allegiance to King Charles, Mr. Uncle Carney, not to pledge allegiance with King Charles. The king is absent. Absentee landlord. Absentee landlord. Absentee landlord. Absentee landlord. See? Absentee landlord, you know? That's all we gotta be doing. Absentee landlord. The King Charles. King, the current king. Of England was our Prime Minister, Uncle Carney, pledged allegiance to when he swore in as a Prime Minister. It's time for the Republic. The king is absent, you know, and it's something which we gotta do, you know, which we gotta do. So it's something which has to be done, and my Trinity of theories have to be implemented. There's just no way to get out of the current financial problems which we are facing, the public and private financial problems, and now, and it's an emergency. It could be a public financial collapse on the horizon. It could even start today. So whatever the case may be, that's how we're gonna be on the doing it now. So it's something which we gotta be. See, look. So again, our geopolitical fact, reality, priority, number one interest is to have the best, most cordial, friendly relations with my brothers and sisters in the United States. For us Quebecers, Canadians, Quebecers, our number one geopolitical interest is to have the best, most cordial relations with the United States. Vice versa, it's reciprocal for the United States. Is to have the best military, economic, financial, cultural, resource, security, service, finance, business, military, defense with Canada. It's vice versa. That is a constant, just like the pi number 3.1416, just like the pi number 3.1416. So that is just like the pi number 3.1416. That is unchangeable. That doesn't change. So that is a variable. That is not a variable that varies. That is a constant geopolitical truth, which is just like the mathematical principle. So yes, we could go through a lot of changes. United States, Canada also, during COVID and before COVID. Now it's tough times because of what's happening economically, financially, and geopolitically with the conflicts in Russia, Ukraine, the Middle East, and potentially Taiwan, China, and potentially Russia, India, India, Pakistan, India. They have not resolved their conflict of Kashmir It's a territorial dispute in Kashmir, the region of Kashmir. Now, all my geopolitical analysis is North American centric because I am a North American Quebecer Canadian. But us, we're North, through North, strong and free. We got to add some love in that cadence with my brothers and sisters in the South. So we're going to fuse the North, through North, strong and free. We're going to add some love with the South. 50 states plus 10 territories plus 3, 4 to 63. You know the cadence already. 4 to 63, you already know the cadence already. 4 to 63, you already know the cadence already. We need public-private partnership. We need to rebuild the ghettos of the North America. We need to mass finance healthcare. We need to mass finance tourism. People to visit Canada and the United States, the Dragon Army especially, to see what we're defending, and starting with the youth, and the children are innocent, and the elderly as well, you know, because they built the Canada, United States, the butchers, the bakers, the train conductors, plumbers, electricians, and there's so many things to see, to do. That's when I crossed Canada coast to coast in 2017. That's when I had an awakening. I said, wow, such a country. The king is absent. It's time for the republic, and to be eligible for the new Dragon Army, which we're going to constitute an institute for SSD, Security Service and Defense. You have to have lived in Canada for at least like the past 7 years in Canada or the United States, and give some amnesty if you lived more than 7 years, and if you haven't left Canada for more than 6 months, a year, unless you're part of the Canadian or US military and deployed elsewhere. But the Dragon Army is going to be only for coast to coast, ocean to ocean. SSD, coast to coast, ocean to ocean for the 63, coast to coast, ocean to ocean for the 63, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, the North and the South, fused in a public-private partnership with a new concordium of understanding for the 21st century. So geopolitically, that's just the way things are. That's just the reality. It's a constant. And now that I'm on geopolitics, I'm going to discuss the DRT, the debt refusion theory. The debt refusion theory is, of course, my theory, and it has to be implemented. It has to be implemented. So my theory has to be implemented. Why do I make that statement? Because due to the fact that, of course, we now paid, or actually I'm gonna go do an assessment here. This bridge. Workers of the past who built it, and it took brains and muscle, so much brains and muscle to build all the bridges of North America. So civilization really is a privilege, is the privilege of civilization of which we have. And so that basically what it is, the privilege of civilization, is this bridge right here, which is fundamental. Our railways also, they're open for sabotage and espionage. And let's take a realistic look. You see, much of our infrastructure, except for the new Champlain Bridge, but across North America, well, it's been more than 44 years since they haven't been rebuilt. So my DRT, debt refusion theory, is going to help rebuilding bridges such as this, and I'm going to discuss it soon, but I want to finalize on the geopolitical matters. So basically, geopolitically today, we have several points of convergence. And I go back in time to 2019, October, November, where I have predicted what's happening now. So I predicted what's happening now back in 2019. In 2019, October, November, I predicted that there's going to be an international conflagration, aka World War III. Even those 3Gs, 4Gs, Canada, United States, those are 4G, 5G towers. We got that Stingray, and tracking, and it takes total security for total service. It takes that total security, for total service, and that's what we're gonna get doing. But they're open for sabotage and espionage. That's what I know geopolitically. Technical matters, well, yes, in theory, all two-way communication, radio waves and satellite waves and internet can be intercepted. That's theoretically possible, but via third party interception of the radio waves. And by radio waves, that's how we transmit the information, and even the cool 21st century transmission of the internet via the towers, 3G, 4G, 5G towers, 3G, 4G, 5G towers, the 3G, 4G, 5G towers. Now what's in them, how they're built, exactly just like that McDish and the Starling sats. And I got to connect with my parallel self, because my parallel self is also an N.A.C.W.P, but my parallel self, everything that my parallel self in the parallel universe does is science, technology, mathematics, science, technology, physics, mathematics, science, technology, mathematics, science, technology, science, technology, mathematics, you know. That's what it is with that, and that's what we gotta get doing with that love, and that's what we gotta get doing on the love side. So that's what I know. That's what it is, and that's what we're gonna get doing, you know, to know with that. And here we are, meditating on that from a geopolitical perspective. You know, that's what we're gonna get doing with that, and gotta know. But some things I don't know. But what I do know is that I predicted what's happening now in 2019, October, November, you know. I predicted an international conflagration that is going to be on the horizon, and a World War III scenario. Now with Pakistan and India, if it escalates into a nuclear, they have nuclear arms and ICBMs, see? They have more than 156 nukes each. I think about 170 and 160. They don't have in the thousands like Russia or United States. Russia still has the most, because the USSR, the United Socialist Soviet Republics, the Soviet Union, Soviet Empire, had built the most. So Russia still has more nukes than the US. More nukes. And supposedly even some ICBM rockets, which are Satan 2, or whatever the case may be, which are pretty hardcore weaponry, which they developed in the past 12 years or 15 years, since 2007 or so. They mass invested in military and high-tech with satellites and other high-tech weaponry, which they have still. And Russia is 144 million people. It's more than 3 times the population of Canada. More than 3 times. It's like half of the United States, but still, in terms of weaponry that they were able to do, you know. And no matter what I say and do, the ideology and all the things that I can say from being an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist and philosopher, it remains that I never lived in Russia in this life, nor in Ukraine, and nor in China, nor Taiwan, nor India, Pakistan, you know. I am a mystic. I believe mystic. You know, I am a mystic. I believe in reincarnations and all that. But fundamentally, in this life, I never lived in Russia like that. I am an advocate for world peace, but also channeling aggression, because I do not like violence. You know, I don't like violence. I do not like violence. But I'm hyper vigilant, and for defense, coast to coast. That's why, to channel the aggression, we need to build the North American People's Imperial Coliseum. The North American People's Imperial Coliseum to be 11 times bigger than the Caesar Superdome, where the hardball ball, aka blackout ball, was performed, and where my 49ers lost by 3 points. The blackout ball, aka bro ball, aka hardball ball, known by the surname, where for the first time in history, you know, 2 brothers faced each other in the Super Bowl. And of course, what are the odds? You know, of that. Well, my 49ers, my team for many years. Niners, San Francisco, please give some charity. Please, NFL, NHL, NBA, MLB, reduce the ticket costs by 44.9%. I estimate that it's about 44.9% for the ticket reduction to be in parallel to keep up with the increasing cost of living for the majority of the population, especially during the past 5 years, and myself included. I survived on. I love it. By action. I got kisses and hugs to blacks, Latinos, and my fellow rainbow community, and it's for my fellow neurodivergent community, you know. So, by action, you know. That's an N.A.C.W.P thing, you know. Just I discussed it in past videos, how sometimes people misunderstand that we don't have compassion or empathy. It's not that. It's that we show mostly our compassion and empathy just by blah blah blah. Just by blah blah blah, by blah blah blah. blah blah blah. But we show it by action. You know, we like to do things, to offer things if we can, if we're in the position or able, by skills, by vigor, by energy, by force and strength, by whatever capabilities, skills or knowledge which we might have, you know, skills or knowledge which we might have, you know, whatever the case may be, then we can do it and we can offer. But otherwise, we do not. I speak myself as an individual, N.A.C.W.P, but it's an N.A.C.W.P thing to, you know, not really console, you know, verbal consolation or verbal consolation, something which kind of we kind of don't get, you know, because just our brains are different. So, but we do offer, you know, things which we can do for others, and if we can do something, those are the main things, I guess. So that's what it is with that, and that's how we gotta get doing on the love, and so we gotta get on the love side of things, and that's how we gotta get some solutions, you know, because here we are in the North American Collective, and we got potential World War III. And again, I come back to 2019 because I take a lot of pride on my work, geopolitical work. I take a lot of pride. I'm very proud of my geopolitical work of the past years, and I come back to a major event in my life as an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist that I have concluded in 2019 in October, November, that humanity is again set going towards an international conflagration. And so made, created, and produced also a workout training program system designed, made, and created to go hand in hand with that World War III scenario, officially titled called the General War Integrated Total Body Training System, aka the Dragon Army workout, aka the 300 workout. So I have created it back then in 2019. I performed more than 372. I believe more than 372, and that's when I said after 300 or 300, my official name, Dragon became Dragon. Nobody's born a dragon is the motto of the Dragon Army. Turned the A into an O. We're gonna get to that cadence. I see somebody's cheering for Rainbow Dragon. Let me go take a look. Don't worry, don't need to eat ya. I got food at home. Got some salami left over, bought it on reduced price. I don't have bread, and I have some soups, and I have some cans, and I have some chocolates, 50-cent chocolate. I think I still have 2, and thank you for the encouragement, and LOVE, don't worry, don't need to hunt. Don't need to hunt, not yet. I guess you gotta, you know, if it was a World War III food scarcity, I guess I had to feed some other people, I'll have to share, and they would have been hunted and had to peel and had to boil, or, you know, from boil hot in the hot water, and one boiled, I would have done one boiled to have leftovers, and one would have been just fried, I guess, fried. So that would have been survival mode, you know, World War III type of nuclear winter, thermonuclear war, which due to the Pakistan-India on the horizon conflagration, it's possible that's about to ignite. So back, one of my main geopolitical points of contention and reasons why I had concluded that humanity is set again towards an international conflagration is again due to the fact that I said humanity was not able to resolve their conflicts dating from the 20th century. From the 20th century, right? So they were not able to fully resolve their conflicts from the 20th century. From the 20th century. Oh, see? This is new. I guess the city put it there, but discovered this flagship project for the Greater Southwest, which aims to revitalize. I like that. Revitalize the Lachine Business Canal District in the borough of Lachine, LaSalle, Verdun, and the West, as well as its main industrial spaces. The objective is to transform the rich industrial past. I like this is new. When you check my other videos, it's not there. So this is a new pillar which you put it there. So hey, that's good. I'm all for that. My DRTT, we're gonna help revitalize all the North American civilizational complex, and you see we need to get back post-COVID, and my debt refusion theory best for the collective North American civilizational conflicts, and we focus on urban and technical innovation, mobility, sustainable development. This initiative, okay, just do it. I guess it's, it requires doing. But this wasn't there in my past videos, and here you can see where we kind of are here. And this is really cool on the other side, and this is the whole Lachine Canal, and that's what it is. And here we got the Lachine Rapids. We're gonna go, I guess. We're gonna go to the Lachine Rapids. You have you can bathe there when it's hot, and there's the bridge Samuel de Champlain. That's the new bridge they built. And where we go to where we went yesterday and Tuesday and Monday 3 times, because today's Thursday. Today's Thursday the 8th. Where is the... Oh, okay, the mountain is not there, because we have to go up, right? We have to go up a bit. So this is, so we'll have to go up here. That's Centreville. So the mountain would be up here. So the mountain is not present. So here you see Lucien Lallier and Notre Dame West, Theatre Corona, Tandem and Rooster and Spas, and you see the guy. Okay, so basically the mountain would be somewhere like here on the map, but it's not on the map there. But we are here, right? So we are here. Right? So here we are, and where we're going basically is here. We're going by here, by this side. So we're going like that. We're gonna go from here. Was it see or here? So we're going like that, and then we're gonna go by this side, right? And there's the Spa Resort on the Ile de Soeur, but that's also Ile de Soeur. So Ile de Soeur. So here we're gonna start going by the park. So we're gonna go like this. From here, we're gonna go by south, and then west, and then north by the Station Grignon, and then we're gonna go back home to my headquarters. And the mountain is over there, but it's pretty cool. You see, you got a spa resort. You got the Ile de Soeur. So you got film studios. You got whatever you got. On the island. So Acte, Montreal, this is part of it. This is where we are there, so it's always good. And hey, I love it. I really appreciate it. It's so beautiful. So we need that in Quebec, Canada, Montreal, and that's the dream. The dancing goddess in the dragon kingdom, the revitalization, and I'll volunteer, because I got a lot of support financially. Being an N.A.C.P, I had to rely on the government, although I had many jobs and employments due to Asperger's. Lost a lot of employments, and it's a high unemployment in my fellow Asperger's N.A.C.P community is very high, because there's always the misunderstanding that it's a mental illness or that it's contagious, and it's not. It's not a mental illness. It's not a malady. It's not an illness. Our brains are different, and so we see the world different, and so most of our time is involved in those special interests on a daily basis with the intensity, super focus, super concentration, which but yes, I could do lots of different work, and lots of work I can do, and I can manage to do the tasks required in a very efficient way, and with vigor, and just sometimes Aspies have trouble following instructions, I guess, more to give them in certain cases, or educate, or special interests which we kind of master, or whatever the case may be. And that's what we gotta get doing with that. Oh, gotta back my head here. Look at that beautiful yellow there, my fellow citizen. Go. Uncle, cousin, citizen. We gotta get it for the exercise, and that's what we gotta get doing, For the body is a temple for pleasure and purpose. So I always love to see people jogging, and there's not a lot of people now because I guess it's not that appropriate, because it's dark and kind of stormy, it's cloudy and rainy, but nonetheless. So in the N.A.C.P community there's a high unemployment rate, but hey, I rock and roll it, so rock and roll, and I'm open for business 24/7. Pledge your allegiance, friends with benefits only, our family. My legions, pledge your allegiance, our family, rock and roll. The butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the train conductors, and factory workers, public workers who put that there. And those who built it, they crafted it. It took some art, it took some skill, it took some knowledge, Took some knowledge, took some XYZ, and that's what I gotta get doing with that, Took some knowledge, took some skills, took some doing, and that's just the beauty It's quite beautiful and colorful. I like the colorness of it. It's like red, blue, yellow, and I like multicolors, you know. I like red is my favorite. That's scarlet, but that mixed colors, vivid colors I like, although I don't mind black and white and gray, but I'm more prone towards. But I like the red and black and white combination a lot. Anyways, butchers encouraging all to work out, train, exercise. I do encourage and call for the mass financing of citizens to work out, train, exercise. Geopolitics again. So I predicted what's happening now in 2019, based that many countries, civilizations, nation states were not able to fully resolve their conflicts, which predated COVID, and I don't know what caused COVID. I believe it was snakes to human beings transmission. That snakes transmitted COVID. Others believe it was monkeys or pigs or bats. Bats is a popular one. And basically a few months ago, 2 weeks ago, it was a revision that the COVID virus, coronavirus was made in the lab. That was the revision. So yes, possibility that it was, you know, to get it on the go. And that's what we gotta get doing with that. And that's what we gotta get doing, you know. So we gotta get on the transmission, you know. So gotta get on some lines and gotta get on the good loving and good doing and don't waste time, you know. And exercise and fitness and rock and roll and just do what you love sometimes. And if you're a millionaire, billionaire, don't be so selfish, give some charity, and that's capital. Make the kid to work, make others to work with capital, and let's rebuild the North American Imperial Coliseum. Let's build it on the Canadian-US border to be 11 times bigger than the Caesar Superdome, also known as the Mercedes-Benz Stadium before, and of course the Mercedes-Benz, where my 49ers lost to the Baltimore Ravens by 3 points. Harbaugh Bowl, aka Blackout Bowl, also known as the Bro Bowl. That was one of my top 5 Super Bowls, and that's how we're gonna get doing with that. And gonna encourage all to work out, train, exercise. And geopolitically, my philosophies, initiatives, the Holy Trinity, the CIT, Citizen Integration Theory, the DRT, Debt Refusion Theory, the Democratic Fusion Theory, gotta be implemented via the 4th dimension, love, and for the rehabilitation. And gonna go ask if they got a little bit of fish. It's the only one fishing. We got fishes aplenty from the river, from the St. Lawrence. Salut, t'as-tu pogné quelque chose? Rien? Ça bouge quelque chose? OK. OK. T'es manges-tu, toi? OK, toi, t'es jeté dans l'eau? OK. Ah oui? Ouais, j'imagine, mais si t'as pas besoin, dans le fond, ouais. Mais je pense qu'ils sont encore mangeables. Ouais.
Parce que il n'y a pas d'ouverture de bateau qui rentrent, si on les ramène toutes, il y en aura pas.
C'est
pogné 6 depuis le début.
C'est quoi que vous avez pogné le plus?
Ben, l'esturgeon.
Oh, l'esturgeon, OK. De quelle grandeur?
Mon plus gros, il avait quasiment ma grandeur.
Oh, wow! Hey, c'est quelque chose, ça aurait nourri une famille d'11 personnes, ça là.
C'est pas bon quand ils sont trop gros.
OK. Ah, je connais pas trop les poissons moi-même. Je suis pas quelqu'un qui consomme du poisson plus. Moi, c'est plus le porc, là. Le porc puis le bœuf en premier, puis les poissons, c'est vraiment, tu sais, le porc en premier, le bœuf, le poulet, puis après ça, c'est les poissons. En tout cas, je voulais pas vous déranger. T'es curieux de savoir, là. Je vais continuer ma...
Ben, j'ai pogné un que j'avais jamais pogné ici, un fresh drum, là, il y a 2 jours.
OK.
Celle-là, je l'avais jamais eu.
Fait que tu mets des vers vivants?
Oui.
OK.
Celle-là, je l'avais jamais vue.
Oh, tabarnak! Wow! Hey, t'as bien fait pour l'avoir de même.
Un petit esturgeon.
Ça, c'est gros. C'est quoi, tu lui donnes un bec?
Oui.
Ah, tu lui donnes un bec! Fais passer les chansons Rock&Roll.
27.
Il donne un bec au pays.
Il y en a plus si jeune.
OK.
J'ai une carpe.
Un carpe Texas. Celle-là est gros en esti, tabarnak.
Le 28. Puis un plus petit, le 28.
Ça, c'est toi, ça?
Oui.
OK, ça, c'est toi.
J'ai des mosquées un peu plus loin. Ça, c'est quoi?
Tabarnak! Excuse-moi, je ris pas de toi. Je ris pas de toi, c'est juste que ça m'a fait...
C'est un mosquée que j'ai eu.
Juste...
L'année passée, il y en a un autre avec sur le quai.
Les plus gros qui sont le plus de bisous, t'es donnes?
Ben, je les embrasse toutes.
Ok,
depuis que je
ok.
suis tout jeune.
Ok,
Mon
pas grave.
esturgeon, le plus gros.
C'est bon, ça?
Esturgeon.
Ils ont besoin d'amour aussi, j'imagine? Ok.
Ouais,
Ah,
mon plus gros esturgeon, il est là.
Oh, tabarnak, ça.
Ouais. Mais monsieur, il a pogné plus gros que moi. Une anguille, une salamandre.
Oh, tabarnak, celle-là, ça ne rit rien.
115 livres, celle-là.
Tu le lèves en plus, là.
Ah,
Ben,
c'est pas moi,
ça,
c'est un gars.
ça, tu peux pas le manger, ça. Parce que là,
Il y
ça,
en a
c'est.
qui mangent.
Ça a été
la
du.
cigan.
Ouais, moi, je
Puis
le.
une tanche aussi.
Je le mangerais, celle-là, pareil. Hein. Ok. Ok.
Moi, j'ai pêche pour le plaisir.
Je comprends, hein.
Tout, hein.
Puis t'as le droit, t'es libre de le faire, puis je te juge
Tu laves
pas.
la bouche après. Hein.
Non,
C'est
non.
avec le poisson, là.
Ouais, c'est correct, là.
Pourquoi pas?
Ouais, ouais.
Manger mon verre, je suis tantôt,
Moi, je te juge pas. Moi, en plus de ça, tu sais, je suis femme puis aux hommes, je fais partie de la communauté LGBTQ, là. Fait que je suis pas pour te juger pour ça, tu sais.
Je vais manger mon verre avant que t'arrives. Je l'avais senti. C'est une pétasse. J'ai à mettre un autre.
Ok, je te laisse, ma chère. Je vais pas te déranger la prochaine fois, on va jaser un peu plus. J'étais un peu sur le... J'étais un peu sur le temps,
Ah, OK.
mais...
Ah, moi aussi, on va travailler au manège dans pas long.
Quel manège?
De la salle.
Ok. Eux autres, t'es embrasses-tu?
Non, c'est dégueulasse.
Ok. Ok. Hey, prends soin de toi, puis... So what I was discussing with my fellow auntie there was in French. You know, here we like our French. So we're discussing the fishes. So basically what we were saying is I was discussing the fishes, how we're doing here when they're fishing, and that's my auntie, you know, and I'm a bit weird and she's a bit weird. She kisses the fishes, but hey, we are, at the end of the day, they're my family, Quebecers, and I gotta love them, and I'm part of the Quebecer family, you know, whether, you know, some are more distant, far away, because Quebec is a big space, and my brothers and sisters in the 50 states, because you're big, and we're big, Canada, and we have a great culture here. We just like our French. So we're picky about the French language, and we made a great compromise to get it on the go, so that's what we gotta get doing with that. So we gotta get on that love side of things, and we gotta get for the love, you know, so it's something which we gotta get doing with that, you know. And she kisses the fishes. I said, I'm not laughing at you, but I'm just you know, because at the end of the day, you know, we have to have each other's backs here, man, you know, and we live tough times, and she's there happy, harming none, and you know, she needs some love, and I need some love, and I guess she kisses the fishes, they need some love, and you know, I don't like violence myself, and I'm always wary for violence. I rather we channel and exercise to let live and let others live, laissez vivre, and that's the kind of Quebecer how we are here, you know, but we love our language, and we have a justice, and we have great science. We have Bombardier, we have Armand Bombardier, you know, who get a lot of culture, and they get a lot of that electric Hydro-Quebec plants, which we're proud of, and I'm proud of them for having built the more than 63, and we're gonna get for them to build some more, you know, to build some more with that, you know, and that's how we gotta get doing with the love, you know. So it's something which we gotta do, you know, with open arms, man, and you know, I don't know, it's something which, you know, I don't judge like that, and I'm not gonna judge my fellow auntie for kissing the fishes, and you know, it's her business, and at the end of the day she needs some love, and that's what we gotta do, you know. Ça c'est sa gloire, you know. Kisses the fishes, that's it, that's all. Kiss them good, I guess. I got kisses, me. I got also trillions of kisses. Kisses, speaking of kisses, you know. Gotta get those trillions of kisses. And you asked me for kisses, I got them, you know. Trillions of kisses from the goddess. I want to build the forgotten goddess temple parallel to the North American Imperial People's Coliseum. Not just for dicks, but for pussy, because I got a pussy clit. I got a clit dick. Rainbow dragon drop down, give me some 11 push-ups. Get some LOV. Learn some French. We gotta learn some French with that, you know. So that's all we gotta get doing, you know. And we gotta get on the love, man. And it's my auntie there, you know. My fellow Quebec family here, you know. Part of the great Quebecers, how we became, you know. Because we became what we are today over the centuries on development. So it's basically the language which we have. It's so much beautiful and richness, but you gotta love it, appreciate it, to make an effort. Because if I don't make an effort for French, then I as an individual don't make an effort. So it requires an effort constantly. So I do it constantly. Most of my videos are bilingual. That's what I was discussing in French and Quebecois, or Quebecer French basically. And that's it. And my auntie there doing a little bit of that loving, and she needs some, she's a human being who needs love, who, I don't know, she says she's gonna go to work after that, and good for you, get good work, and you know, and it's just something which we gotta be loving with that, and you know, and I care for my fellow Quebecers, and I want us to just get for the defense, you know, defense, security, service, coast to coast, torsion, and fuse Canada, United States in my way, and of course to continue the financing of the French language, to finance the French language, of which I have to make an effort also. So remember last week we went on the video, we came by that way, now we go the like the reverse, so now we go on the reverse. You know. So that's what it is with that. That's on the reverse, you know, so that's all we gotta get doing, you know. So here's the river, and here we got French Canadians, and that's where we're gonna go, man. And got peace and nature here. You can work out on these. Maybe one day in the coming days, weeks, months ahead, we're gonna come do some special workout right here. I can see it. Already a public gym here, but you gotta be respectful of others, you know. I guess don't be too loud in the public, and get that drill and get some push-ups, get some hawks, get some squats, and that's about beautiful flowers right here. So we're doing the reverse. We're doing in last week's video, you see one of my videos, I come from there, I come west. Well, actually it's west, right? So actually it's kind of north in a way, because see, it's tricky, because that way is west, right? In theory, so that's a bit north. There, that's south. That's south, with the 50 states, my brothers and sisters in the USA. So now I'm kind of going east from a south perspective. So I'm going east now. East. Because I'm going in a straight line. But if I deviate, that's north, east, kind of west, kind of south. The compass gets tricky. So geopolitically, the best interest to have is for us to have the best relations with the United States. And now, consequently, I have to discuss the DRT, the debt refusion theory, because I'm on the subject, and I have to not impart and have to not neglect to discuss it, because it's an emergency situation scenario where we now are on the 8th of May, due to the fact that we have paid so much interest on the public debt. Last year we paid 46.5 billion. 46.5 billion is the equivalent of 1,000 million. 1,000 million. Can you imagine that? 1,000 million. That is just so much. That a billion doesn't have 8 or 7 zeros or 7 or 8 zeros. A billion has 9 zeros. 9 zeros is such an extreme of amount on the interest on the public debt. The interest on the public debt that we paid, that is enormous. It's just enormous. 46.5 billion. 46.5 billion. That is just a huge amount. 46.5 billion. That amount is huge. That amount is huge. So 46.5 billion is a huge amount, you know. So it's something which we gotta be doing, and I said I don't wanna not discuss it. Just like I said to my auntie, you know, I hope I'm not bothering you, and I'm just curious. And she shared some pictures with the big fishes. 1 meter, 1 meter. Said 1 meter, 1 meter, and that's what we gotta get doing with that. So, but some of them were so big and supposedly 115 pounds. So, wow, that's really cool. Wow, good for you fishing that like that, I guess. So whatever the case may be, you know, it's something which we gotta do, and they gotta get doing with that, and we gotta love, you know. And so back to the DRT, dead refusion theory, you know. Dead refusion theory is the only solution. There's no other way, whatever the case may be, you know. There's no other way with that, and whatever the case may be. So basically, the amount of money which we paid on the public debt was such a big amount that it requires, I'm going to pass by the side, that it requires my debt refusion theory or something similar. Because if not, otherwise we're on the verge of a public financial collapse. So that is just what's happening, you know. Wow, here we can do on that, and wow, that's what it is, you know. That's what it is with that. So whatever the case may be, we gotta do it on the go. And here's the Hotel de Ville La Salle. Wow, that's what it is, and that's what it is with that. That's what it is, man. You know. So the DRT, the debt refusion theory, for the correction of the universal exchange unit. That's what we need to do. So we're gonna take all the public and the private debt, and again, you can argue all you will, but the thing is that, of course, it requires a public-private partnership to implement my theory, and we're on the verge of a public financial collapse. Again, because imagine, make the financial parallel complementary comparison. If an individual's interest, that's gotta be recycled, man. Gotta put that in recycling. Gotta put that in recycling, you know. Gotta put that in recycling. Gotta put that in recycling. Gotta put that, you know, in recycling, and that's what we gotta get doing with that. And that's something which we gotta be doing. So I gotta put that in recycling. So, as an individual, if of course, what? If of course the individual is, of course, pays, let's say the interest payments, it doubles from 156 to 333. If it doubles from 156 to 333, that's more than double, because 156 double is 312. So if it goes from 156 to 333, that means that, of course, the interest payments have more than double. So that is for the individual. If the salary doesn't double, if the individual salary does not double, then the individual citizen also has to reduce and cut the spending. Reduce and cut the spending. Reduce and cut the spending, you know. Reduce and cut the spending, you know. That's what it is with that. Reduce and cut the spending. That is just what needs to happen, you know. An individual citizen automatically has to cut or reduce the spending, you know. Because the salary has to double if you are to maintain the same spending. If an individual has to, otherwise, of course, an individual has to otherwise reduce the spending. That is just a correlation. That is just a constant mathematical financial principle. Because the more interest you pay, while your salary doesn't increase exactly percentage for percentage, mathematically then you have to cut and reduce the spending. That's just how it is, mathematical financial. That's just mathematics, financial mathematics. It's not like art, and mathematics, financial mathematics is not like art. Sure, if your salary doubles, then yeah, that's what it is, and that's what it is for the go, and that's what it is for the rock and roll. So if it doubles, yes, it has to double if the interest double. So back to what I was saying is, of course, that one has to reduce the spending. So the same applies in the public finances, because our GDP didn't double. So since our GDP, gross domestic product, didn't double, since our gross domestic product didn't double, our GDP didn't double, and that's what it is with that. So our GDP didn't double. One has to cut. We have to cut the spending. We have to reduce the spending. What are we going to cut, Uncle Carney? Our GDP didn't double. We're going to cut the garbage collection. Police. The RCMP, the prisons, sanitation, healthcare, national defense. Because the amount of interest which we paid last year was 46.5 billion, which is the equivalent of 46,000 million. In 2020, 2021, it was 20.3 billion. 20.3 billion, double is 40.6. So you see that it more than doubled than during COVID, in 3 years only. And yes, due to the coronavirus, which I had and I survived. COVID for me was like death, pestilence, and disease. I really thought it was like my last chapter, my end. It was like death, pestilence, and disease. Like death, pestilence, and disease. It was like death, pestilence, and disease. It sounds like a hardcore rock and roll. Canadian Pacific Railway, wow, St. Lawrence Bridge, Canadian Pacific St. Lawrence Bridge. Masonry commenced 18th of March 1886. So we got to commence to build the North American People's Imperial Coliseum. Forgotten Goddess Temple, the Pyramid, House of the Dragon, Red, Scarlet, and Crimson, Scarlet are shades of red. Build the House of the Dragon, Pyramid. The North American People's Imperial Coliseum, and of course the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, and also the Rainbow People's Palace for my fellow neurodivergent community and fellow LGBT community. So you see, it finished 30th of July. Masonry commenced 18 March 1886. Superstructure commenced 18 February 1886. It was finished in less than 2 years. Finished July 1887. Wow, really cool. Dominion Bridge contractors for superstructure. So we need to build that superstructure on the Canadian-US border. The superstructure will be the North American People's Imperial Coliseum for sportus in perpetuitis, for sports in perpetuity. And of course, it's the inauguration of that superstructure, the greatest ever built sports coliseum in the universe. It's going to be the inauguration. It's going to be Dragon versus Trump, me fighting Donald Trump. Sports, we're going to keep it as sports like as we can. We're going to fight on the Canadian-US border and build the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, aka the Coliseum. Superstructure and the Forgotten Goddess, GODDSS, because I credited me surviving COVID to the Forgotten Goddess. And of course, when I say COVID, I had it and I survived it, and here we are, the superstructure. Take a look, and there we are on that, and somebody getting on the go, I guess. And wow, it's more than 100. It's 156. 150, no, 144, 44. Gotta do the math in my head. Wait. 140 about. 139 years. Well, if it was finished in, depends from the commencement or from the ending, you know, because it's month and commencement and ending, so it's almost 140 since it was fully built and up in operation, I guess. Imagine, quite something. And some of those bricks are so strong, so laid, and wow. I mean, by my DRT, we're gonna be able to do mass rebuilding of the bridges in the 20th century, you know. So that's a lot of work, as I'm working now. Hey, bridge builders, LOV bridge builders, thank you for building bridges. I always constantly need to build bridges between myself as a neurodivergent and my fellow neurotypicals, which are the majority. And you see here it goes steep, so I guess I'm gonna go a little bit on the crouching on the knees and go back to, I thought it was gonna go all the way, but hey, back to my DRT. The debt refusion theory is the solution, and there's no other really solution but my DRT. We're on a critical point of an emergency where we are now. It gets steeper as I go up. See, gotta go on the, this is gonna be problematic a bit. Let me see, is it solid? I guess I'm gonna have to use the tree here and some force. Some force and strength. Oh fuck. Oh yeah. See? That's steep, baby. Steep. It goes down steep. Oh fuck yeah. I have to crouch, but I have to propel myself with super strength, super force. I guess it's military wise, Dragon Army. I used parts of nature. Parts of nature to get it, and that's how we gotta get doing with that. So there we are by the river, and here I'm gonna stick it to the side because I don't want to be in the way of the bike, so I'm gonna wing it on as much as I can to the right, because I don't want to impede the bicycle circulation. Actually, I'm gonna wait for the other bike to cross, and I'm gonna stay on the extreme right as much as I can on the extreme right here. So back to the DRT, the debt refusion theory, DRT. Again, is the only solution. There's no other way. I'm gonna actually go through here. So that's how we're gonna go do it, you know. Off Thelema. So that's what it is with that, man. So the DRT, debt refusion theory, the DRT, debt refusion theory, you know, for the creation of the UE, the universal exchange unit, is something which we gotta be putting it on, and which we gotta be meditating on as we are here, you know, the North American Collective Civilizational Complex. And of course we're on the verge of a public financial collapse, you know, a public financial collapse, which of course can happen, can arise, and it can be doing on that. And That's how we gotta get doing, you know, for the love and for the side, and to get it on that, and that's how we're gonna get doing on that love side of things. And here's a magnolia tree, you know, that's what you gotta do on that goal side of that, and that's how we gotta get doing on that love side of things, and we gotta get it doing on that, and that's how we gotta get doing, man. The DRT, that refusion theory, you know, for the creation of the UE and for the creation of the universal exchange. That's what we're gonna get doing on that, and gotta get doing on that side, you know, and gotta get doing on the transmission of the buildings. And we gotta get doing for the love, you know, to cross and whatever the case may be, and that's it, man. The DRT is the only solution. The DRT is the only solution. And that's how we're gonna get doing on that. That's what it is, and that's how we gotta get doing, you know. Yeah. That's how we gotta get the DRT is our infrastructure. We need to be rebuilding. We need to be building the infrastructure, and that's it. And it's collapsing, much of it. So we really need the rebuilding, you know. Lots of rebuilding, not just the bridges, the aqueducts, the sewers. If you meditate, you know, if you meditate and get it on the transmission lines and whatever the case may be, you're gonna need to see by yourself that a lot of it rusty, and that is what it is with that, and gotta get it for that. And oh wow, see here, I love how it's double here. See? Imagine all the work, the labor to build these bridges, you know, to build it. There was something which were built, you know, by brains and muscle, thousands of workers across the bridges of the North American Collective. That's what we gotta get doing, and you know, they're always something which we gotta structure. And now my brain, of course, focuses in geopolitics, because geopolitically our bridges are also open for sabotage, you know, are open for sabotage, the bridges. They're open for sabotage and espionage, mostly allowed for sabotage, you know. But since we made enemies, so back to we made lots of enemies now. It's more than before. Canada didn't have that many enemies in the past 50 years as we have made in the past 5 years, you know. And you just take a look at the geopolitical reality of today. The geopolitical reality of today. Xi Jinping is visiting Russia again. Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping is visiting Russia again. You wonder. Again, in just 3.5 years, so many visitors. That's unprecedented, eh? For leaders to visit each other so often, in such vice versa. Putin going to China, Xi Jinping going to Russia again. So they have solidified their military, financial, economic, commercial, their military, economic, commercial, alliance, their military, economic, commercial alliance, their military, economic, commercial alliance, you know. They have, even today, what's going to be discussed, what's being discussed, I don't know 100%, but solidifying furthermore their economic, financial, military alliance is probably the top priority of discussions. My priority here for the North American Collective is the DRT, the debt refusion theory, which we're going to discuss now again. So the DRT is the only solution. We have to implement it. And my DRT theory, of course, inside my DRT theory is integrated monetary integration theory, which is exactly the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union. So we're going to take again, we're on the verge of a public collapse. What are we going to cut? Uncle Carney, King is absent, it's time for the Republican absentee landlord coming to visit us. Figure that. coast to coast, ocean to ocean for the 63, the DRT, debt refusion theory. So we're going to take all the public and the private debt, all the public and the private debt, all the public and the private debt. So my $10,000, I got $10,000 to the RBC. So the DRT again, it includes monetary integration theory, which is the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union. In the European Union. So it was implemented in the European Union. That's what it is. The DRT. Correction. In my debt refusion theory, in the DRT is integrated in my theory, is integrated monetary integration theory, which is the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union as I march now by the river. So we're going to take all the public and the private debt, my $10,000, your $10,000, their $10,000, all the debt, public and private debt. My $10,000 I got to the RBC. My debt, your debt, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. Right? All that Canadian public private debt, we're going to convert it into US dollars. Into US dollars. All that money, we're going to add it with the United States. We're going to add it with the United States public private debt, because the United States is in a similar precarious point of collapse, public and private financial situation with record credit card and mortgage debt, rising prices. Canada has the same record mortgage debt, record credit card debt, rising prices. We're on the verge of a public financial collapse of Canada could happen now when I get back home at 3 p.m. at 3:33. See at 3:33, see breaking news. CBC, CTV, Radio Canada, CNN. You see? Breaking news, Canadian public. The public finances of Canada collapse. The collapse of public finances of Canada. A Canadian public financial collapse. A Canadian public financial collapse. Canadian public financial collapse. It's on the horizon. That's just it's possibility now because of the interest payments. The interest on the public debt has more than doubled in less than 5 years. Yes, due to COVID, the coronavirus, there had to be implementations of programs, special programs to sustain the population which had to be sustained in such a manner. So whatever the case may be, that the population had to be sustained and the programs implemented that made it so, and I had survived COVID, and I always say it was COVID for me was like death, pestilence, and disease, but now I know it sounds like a hardcore rock and roll song, death, thrash, metal, rock and roll, hardcore, death, pestilence, and disease on my enemies, please, yeah. A more hardcore death, trash, metal, rock and roll type of style, metal, heavy metal, But I survived it. Credit my surviving to the goddess. And so, back to what I was saying, the DRT is the only solution or something similar, which resembles my DRT theory, the debt refusion theory. So we're going to take all the public and private debt, we're going to take it, my 10,000, your 10,000, whatever the case may be. So all the public and the private debt, we're going to convert it into US dollars. My debt, your debt, whatever the case may be. All the public and the private debt, So I'm going to convert my $10,000, your $10,000, whatever the case may be. Convert all the debt, public and private debt, that's how we're going to be doing. All the public and private debt, we're going to convert it to US dollars. All that money, we're going to create a new currency added with the United States public and private debt. We're going to create it, we're going to add it, of course, together. And all that money, we're going to add it all together. And we're going to create a new currency based on the US dollar value, the UE, the U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit, the universal exchange unit, the U dot. The universal exchange unit is going to have the value of the US dollar. The universal exchange unit is going to have the value of the US dollar. You left a mess there. Somebody ate, and you left a mess. Why do you clean after yourself? You know, just put it in the public trash. I checked. I was curious if there was food waste, because sometimes people leave like the hamburgers, the cheeseburgers, and half of the meat in there. But I guess you want to give a little piece to the birds. You're not supposed to, but a little piece, yeah. But don't leave it there like trash like that. You know, just put it in the compost. That's why we got the public workers who take off the trash, and that's what we're gonna get doing with that. So that's why we have to do the appellation thereof. So we're gonna take all the public and the private debt, all that public private debt, we're gonna convert it into US dollars. My 10,000, your 10,000, whatever the case may be. Either with the US, so that money, all the public private debt, we're gonna call it the UE. Universal exchange unit. UE, universal exchange unit. The U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit. The universal exchange unit. Yeah, the universal exchange unit. The UE, U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit. The universal exchange unit. Those are the cranes. You know, I got a fetish for cranes, and with the DRT, debt refusion theory, we're gonna be able to rebuild the infrastructure of North America by implementing my DRT. Going to be able to implement the North American civilizational complex. Going to be able to rebuild the stadium, and the construction workers go, and I got those steel toes, get back home safe, you know, body first. I love those cranes. I know they got their brains and muscle. I got my geopolitics, and on the table with trillions of kisses, the DRT, debt refusion theory. We're gonna take all the public and the private debt, and all the public and the private debt. We're gonna create a new superstructures, the People's Coliseum, Imperial People's Coliseum on the Canadian-US border. And I put more than blah 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 for the construction workers. I put washing of the feet, massages, rock and roll, and you know, I love cranes. I got a little bit of a crane fetish, and always meditating on how cranes operate and work. And let's build it on the Canadian-US border, the Forgotten Goddess Temple, also the North American People's Imperial Coliseum for sportists and perpetuities, and whatever the case may be. The pyramid, House of the Dragon, Scarlet, Crimson, Scarlet, and Red, and of course the other one is to be the People's Imperial Coliseum, the Pyramid, House of the Dragon, and the Rainbow People's Palace for my fellow neurodivergent community, neurodivergent and fellow LGBTQ community. Here we are by the river. On the other side is Kahnawake, Chateauguay and Kahnawake, Chateauguay. Both Chateauguay and Kahnawake are in the south. The camera is pointing south now. Across the river, big river. See, this river surrounds Hawk Island, Montreal, aka Hawk Island. So the whole island is surrounded by this big, majestic river called St. Lawrence. So I call it a river of the snake river. Call me Snake. And so that's what we gotta get doing with that, and that's what we have to implement. It's an emergency. It could happen today, tomorrow, in the coming days, weeks, and months, even Monday, full moon Monday. Black Swan event and the public financial collapse of Canada. Because what are we going to cut? What are we going to reduce? We have to. The GDP didn't double, just like an individual would have to reduce. Cut the spending, cut whatever consumption is, whether the bacon, the cheese, the cannabis, if you smoke, or if you get those cigarettes on it. And that's what it is with that, and that's what we got to get doing on the go. So whatever you cut, whatever you do, is something which the same applies from the public and the private. Financially, mathematically, the GDP, there is no other way. There's no other way. You know, that's just how we rock and roll. So we're going to implement it in Canada, United States. Going to create the UE, U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit. We're going to put an interest rate level of 10%. 10% interest rate. We're going to put a 10% interest rate. 10% interest rate level. 10% interest. We could be below 10%. It could be 7.18, 6.1, 4.18, 9.3, 1.56, 3.33. 3.33, that's what we gotta get doing with that. 3.33, so that's what we're gonna be doing with that. 3.33, that's what we're gonna get doing, and that's what we're gonna get doing for the love, you know, and something which we have to do, and so we gotta get doing with the love, and gotta put that XYZ, you know, right in that spiel, and The DRT is the solution. So you can argue all you want. There's just where we are today, May 8th, 2025. There's just no other way. There's just no way out of this situation. We're on the verge of a public financial collapse. It's just how we are today in this 2025. It's just what it is. There's my DRT as the solution or something very, very similar to my DRT debt refusion theory. As I march on these steel-toe boots, thinking about the farmers, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, those in the warehouse workers, ports, airports, laying some bricks, doing some construction workers, doing some of that changing of the diapers, daycare workers, nurses, plumbers, electricians. I had many jobs in the past 7 years, but there were interruptions, briefly interrupted, and that's a lot of suffering with struggling with Asperger's, and that's the curse of Asperger's. Also has put this blessing of the DRT. What a paradox. I am financially stressed today, May 8th, although open for business, rents paid, grateful, thankful. Rents paid, electricity bills paid, got food and coffee, and here I am, and I live a simple, austere, severe 21st century, highly physically active Spartan lifestyle. I live a simple, austere, severe, highly 21st century rainbow dragon Spartan lifestyle. I live a simple, austere, severe, super active, physically fit rainbow dragon lifestyle. But I love my cheese, I love bacon, I love good food, good wine, but financially stressed. So, but I'll never say no. Bring it. Feast. It's a must. Holy. Feasting and pleasure can be holy and sacred and divine. The body is a temple for pleasure and purpose. And we're gonna rebuild the infrastructure by implementing my DRT debt refusion theory. We're gonna rebuilding the North American collective infrastructure. We're gonna mass finance citizens' fitness. We're gonna mass finance the building of those 44 tunnels. I think that those are edible. Maybe, I'm not sure. Build 44 tunnels in case of a thermonuclear war. That's how we're gonna get doing. We're gonna do the building of the infrastructure, and we're gonna be doing the building of the infrastructure, and that's what we're gonna be doing with that. So that's what it is for the XYZ, and that's how we gotta get doing with that. So we gotta get doing. So there we go. We're gonna be doing. So we're gonna be doing on that. So it's something which we gotta. Debt refusion theory for the creation of the UE, and that's how we're gonna get on the love side of things, and that's what we're gonna do on the go. So something which we gotta be implementing, for the XYZ, and that's how we're gonna be doing. It's something which we gotta be doing on that. The DRT debt refusion theory for the creation of the UE is the must. Look at the beautiful. So we're gonna be financing citizens to work out, train, exercise. We're gonna finance citizens' fitness, mass finance building of the aqueducts, building of the sewers, building of the canals, the sewers, and whatever the case may be. That's it, that's all, so that's how we're gonna go doing with that, and that's how we're gonna go, that's it. That's how we're gonna get doing for that yellow car. So we're gonna rebuild the infrastructure, we're gonna be rebuilding the infrastructure to do it, and that's how we're gonna get doing with that, We're gonna mass finance citizens to work out, to train, and to do on that exercising, and finance tourism. Tourism is great for mental health. It got me out of being depressed. So mass finance tourism, mass finance physical activity, and mass finance all the things which we got to be doing by the implementation of my DRT for the North American Collective, for the 50 states plus 10 provinces plus 3 territories. We're gonna, of course, lay the bricks and do the North American Citizen Integration Act and create the 2 complementary covenant and cooperative institutions. The Dancing Goddess Army, the North American Integrated dance league, the North American Integrated Dance League. That's what we're gonna get doing with that. Gonna be implementing on the go and get it on the new, and that's what we're gonna have to be doing with that. And so we're gonna have to be doing on the go, man. The North American People's Imperial Coliseum, and that's what we're gonna get doing on that, you know. So yeah, getting on the go and see the youth there happy on that. I'm gonna turn my head left and right in case I get it. Sometimes they gotta get it on the go, and gonna get that North American People's Imperial Coliseum, you know, build it for sports and perpetuities, and that's what we're gonna get, and that's what we're gonna get doing with that, you know. That's what we're gonna get doing, you know. And that's what we gotta do that must, you know, because gotta get the North American implementation and for the North American Collective, you know, so something which we gotta be doing. Oh wow, look at that. Oh yeah. That's it, man. Ah, that feels so good. That's it, that's all with the DRT. Dead refusion theory. The DRT, the dead refusion theory, that's it, that's all. You know? That's it, you know? That's rock and roll, you know? It's like noise. That's what it is, you know? Oh, there's a beauty. This could be converted for the Dragon Army. So we're gonna, by the DRT, we're gonna do the Dragon Army, North American Integrated Dance League, North American Integrated Dance League, North American Integrated Dance League, and the Dragon Army, you know, for the SSD, you know, for the SSD, Security Service and Defense. For the Security Service and Defense, you know. Look at that. For the Security Service and Defense, you know, that's what we're gonna do. Yeah, that's a beauty here, and that's what we gotta get doing with that, you know. Oh yeah. Wow, that's beautiful. Is that a mating? Yeah, mating. What did I just do? Kisses? I'm assuming so. That's what it is, man. The DRT for the creation of the UE, the Universal Exchange Unit. That's how it's gonna be. That's what we're gonna get doing with that, and we're gonna get it on the go, man. See if we can cross here, I guess so. So we're on the verge of a public financial collapse. The DRT is the solution. We're gonna, of course, create and implement the aforementioned. We're gonna create the two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions. Two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions. The two complementary cooperative and complementary institutions. The dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom. It's a nice blue one. It's a nice blue truck. Nice blue truck. Pal de rapide, that's what it is, and that's a nice, gotta say, that's really nice. Pretty cool. It's a nice blue. Here you can come do a little rafting if you're so inclined to do it, but that's what it is. So we're gonna get all the debt, public and private debt, and here you can situate yourself where you are, and that's how we're gonna go on that rock and roll with that, and so we're gonna get on that drill, you know, get it on the go, and getting on the XYZ, and that's how we're gonna get doing, you know, for the XYZ, you know. So it's something which we gotta get doing with that. So the North American People's Imperial Coliseum is something which we gotta be doing, you know, and that's something which we gotta be doing on that. Gotta get it on that to go, you know. That's what we gotta get doing with that. And the DRT, the debt refusion theory, it's gonna get it for the firefighters, butchers, and that's what it is. And here we gotta go, you know. You can take a little feet to dip there, and we're gonna create the complementary covenant and cooperative institutions, the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, and that's what it is with that, and that's all we need to do doing with the love, you know, to getting a little bit of that love rock and roll, and we're gonna create the two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions, you know, to get it on the doing, and takes a little bit of that loving, and the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, which we need to do, and we need to integrate it. We need to do the implementation thereof, and that's what we're gonna get doing with that. That's what we need to be doing with that. So the North American Imperial People's Coliseum and the Forgotten Goddess Temple, the North American People's Imperial Coliseum with that, and the Dancing Goddess Army, North American Integrated Dance League for service and environmental education and action. Clean the mountains, clean the mountains, clean the mountains, clean the roads, clean whatever needs to be cleaned, and doing on the go with that, and that's what we're gonna get doing with that, and gotta get it on the go, and do it on the love, you know. Here we are. And the Dragon Army to be only for SSD, for the 63 legions. We're gonna create those 63, the 63 legions of the Dragon Army, integrate with all existing institutions and organizations, and for the 63, for the 63 legions. For SSD only, security, service, and defense. And SSD, for SSD, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, security, service, and defense. And wow, hey, beautiful pink flowers. Look at these. I'm gonna smell a bit. Wow, what nice. A little bit on the flower side, so they're nice. So, gonna get on that and. Get on the go, man. Really nice. So the DRT, debt refusion theory. Dragon Army for SSD only, by principle. You know. For security, service, and defense, only the Dragon Army. There's beautiful yellow flowers here, and I'll get it for that. So for SSD, security, service, and defense only, solely for SSD, and that's what it is. And the Dancing Goddess Army for the environment, environmental education, environmental action, and that's it for that rock and roll. We're gonna switch it a bit to that French because we're in La Belle Province. Pledge your legions again. Support the implementation of the DRT theory, the debt refusion theory, for the creation of the UE, the universal exchange unit, and get those 3G, 4G, 5Gs out there built on the go. And that's what we gotta get doing on that. And so we gotta get on the transmission side, and so we gotta get doing on the boom, and gotta get doing for the now, you know. So something which we gotta, you know. So gotta get doing for that, you know. Something which we gotta be implementing, you know. So that's how we gotta get the DRT. De rien et de tout. That's what it is. That's what it is. That's what it is with that, and that's what we gotta get doing, you know, for the XXX, and they gotta get it on the go, you know. So something which we gotta be meditating on the impasses of today, you know, to get it on the butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors. And one time I really gotta get to this drive-in to come afford and just get a meal here. I have to come with my anonymous friend, who isn't my friend because of the money. Oh yeah, because I'm not gonna go because I had a little bit of some food. Et à un moment donné, j'aimerais ça me permettre, si vous venez voir, me permettre la salle drive-in. Ça a l'air petit comme chic ici dans le coin. Avec mon ami anonyme, ça va venir manger un souper ou un dîner ou un lunch ou même un déjeuner sinon. Je suis pas rentré là, mais Parce que là, je suis en crise financière, je vis un stress financier, donc je pourrais pas bien me le permettre là, non plus de dépenser de l'argent. Je suis vraiment serré avec mes finances, mais je suis quand même de bonne humeur, là. Je suis content, je suis de bonne humeur, je suis content, je suis quand même jovial, mais stressé financièrement, je suis toujours ouvert pour les affaires, mais vous savez que moi, avec ma condition de neurodivergence, l'Asperger's, ben, malheureusement, dans ma communauté, il y a un très haut taux de chômage, elle est élevé, hein, qui n'ont pas d'emploi, les Asperger's. Et la condition de neurodivergence, c'est que notre cerveau est différent. Fait que moi, je fais partie de cette petite communauté de moins d'1%, moins de la moitié d'un pourcentage. C'est 0,44%. Fait qu'il n'a pas bien des... Oui, il y avait le chien à vendre l'autre jour, la semaine passée, quand je passais, parce que là, on fait le revers, on fait le contraire, on a le chemin à l'envers de ce qu'on a fait de la semaine passée, mais ça, c'était à vendre, peut-être que quelqu'un l'a acheté. Je dis, ben, Céline Dion, elle peut l'acheter pour moi-même, puis pour mon ami anonyme, puis on va pouvoir s'arranger à faire des chansons que j'en écris, hein, j'en compose, des chansons de rock-and-roll au quotidien, du matin, l'après-midi, au soir, puis moi-même, vous savez qu'avec l'Asperger, j'ai des intérêts spéciaux, puis ces intérêts, mais quand je travaille dedans, quand je fais des études dedans, mais c'est 24/24, puis moi-même, bien sûr, c'est l'entraînement physique. L'entraînement physique, la danse est mon sport préféré, la géopolitique. Je suis un analyste et théoricien en géopolitique et le rock&roll, parce que je suis artiste athlète aussi, mais indépendant. Il y a un stress financièrement. J'ai vécu beaucoup de souffrance. Je vis avec mes cicatrices. Tu sais. Je vis avec mes cicatrices sur le corps, sur le tronc intérieur, la perte de mémoire. J'ai survécu la COVID en 2020. Fait que je célèbre depuis que j'ai eu la COVID, you know. Je pensais que c'était mon dernier chapitre. Tu sais. Fait que je pensais que c'était mon dernier chapitre quand j'ai eu la COVID. Là. Je pensais que c'était mes derniers jours. J'ai survécu ce chapitre. Là. Puis depuis ce temps-là, je vis tous les jours au quotidien, au carpe diem, à tous les jours, tu sais, en faisant les choses que j'ai eu bien de l'emploi aussi durant la COVID, mais l'Asperger's encore, il faut faire du travail en termes d'éducation parce que c'est pas une maladie mentale. Il y a justement avant-hier, quand je suis allé dans un autre de mes vlogs, là, vous pouvez voir des entraînements physiques danse, je parlais à un citoyen, puis j'ai avisé, j'ai laissé savoir que juste que j'ai l'Asperger, je vis avec l'Asperger, et donc il m'a dit, ben oui, je connais, c'est une maladie. C'est une maladie. Fait que je dis non, c'est pas une maladie. Oui, dans certaines choses, on a de la misère, on a de la difficulté, on doit avoir un certain soutien, moi, en tant qu'individu, mais avec l'Asperger, je parle pas pour ma communauté en général, puis ma communauté, hein, c'est pas beaucoup, hein. Il n'y a pas beaucoup d'aspi dans le monde, c'est moins d'1%, moins de la moitié d'un pourcentage, c'est 0,44%, là. Imaginez-vous, 0,44, tu sais. 0,44. Il n'y a pas beaucoup d'aspi dans le monde, tu sais. C'est une petite minorité des gens qui ont l'Asperger's, bien sûr. Fait que cette petite minorité d'autistes hautement fonctionnels, d'Asperger's, les aspi qu'on nous appelle, moi-même, je suis un aspi. Androgyne pansexuel. Le dragon arc-en-ciel qui chante, regardez la nature, qu'est-ce qu'elle fait de la rivière? Que j'adore, hein, le rock'n'roll, des fois je parle dans des transes. Et le rock'n'roll, c'est mon intérêt spécial, aussi connu comme intérêt obsessif, parallèlement à la géopolitique. L'entraînement physique, c'est quelque chose, bien sûr, qu'il faut que je fasse moi-même. Et il faut que je le fasse dans cette situation, bien sûr, d'avoir des communications non verbales ou non écrites pour le faire dans le parallèle, tu sais, qu'on soit aujourd'hui du quotidien pour le faire, bien sûr, dans cette théorie de l'infusion de la dette que je viens justement de parler en anglais, à discuter en anglais. Là, mais encore une fois, s'il vous plaît, ne dites pas que l'Asperger, c'est une maladie. Oui, dans certaines choses, moi-même, j'ai la misère, je suis pas très bon. Dans les interactions sociales, on a un peu de la misère. Et bien sûr, dans certaines normes et protocoles tels que, bien sûr, la distance personnelle de 2-3 pieds, là, les aspi comme moi-même, des fois on se rapproche trop proche de la personne à 2-3 pouces. Fait que ça peut intimider, ça peut mettre mal à l'aise quelqu'un, ça peut causer un inconfort, ça peut être des choses comme ça. Fait que c'est des caractéristiques, pas des symptômes. Symptômes, c'est pour une maladie, mais les Asperger, on a des caractéristiques. Ça fait qu'on est différent. Je suis moi-même différent. Je l'ai accepté là, comme 45 mois, parce que ça faisait bien des années qu'on me l'avait diagnostiqué, puis on me l'avait dit, mais je l'avais refusé, puis je suis différent, je sais bien, je suis différent, tu sais. Fait que je dois toujours faire bâtir des ponts avec les neurotypiques. Avec les neurotypiques. Tu sais, avec les neurotypiques, qui sont la majorité de 99,56%, parce que les aspis n'ont pas beaucoup. Nous, on a une mutation du cerveau. Fait que cette mutation du cerveau, ça fait qu'on se concentre sur certaines activités à répétition, avec, tu sais, comme un rituel répétitif, là. Puis c'est les intérêts spéciaux. Puis moi-même, tu sais, c'est 24 sur 24, l'analyse, la théorie en géopolitique, le rock&roll, le sport, l'entraînement physique, le conditionnement physique, sur la danse. Et j'ai même créé mon propre système d'entraînement physique en 2019, parallèlement, car je suis un analyste et théoricien en géopolitique indépendant, pour y aller justement avec une situation de crise de la géopolitique, parce que j'avais prévu qu'est-ce qui se passe maintenant en géopolitique. J'avais prévu une conflagration internationale, une troisième guerre mondiale, en 2019. Oh merci, ça a marché pour que je m'hydrate. Oh, que ça donne un coup, ben, j'ai commencé à voir ça. Ah. Et bon, fait que bien sûr, cette condition de neurodivergence, ben, ça fait que j'ai des intérêts spéciaux, sont connus comme des intérêts obsessifs, mais dire obsessif, c'est plutôt négatif, c'est pas des intérêts obsessifs dans la manière traditionnelle, tu sais, pour que ça soit une obsession, d'un point de vue que c'est négatif, parce que c'est pas négatif en tant que tel. Fait que c'est pas une négation, tu sais. C'est pas négatif. Les intérêts spéciaux des aspis, il faut qu'ils soient encouragés, il faut qu'il y ait l'encouragement. C'est constamment un encouragement, tu sais, pour faire l'encouragement des citoyens qui vivent avec cette condition, tu sais. Parce que c'est pas des intérêts comme dans le cas propre du mot, c'est obsédé, tu sais. C'est pas ça. C'est que nous, ça vient naturel. Fait que c'est naturel pour nous, bien sûr, de faire de l'entraînement physique, puis de faire des choses de l'entraînement physique, puis de faire de la géopolitique, puis faire du rock'n'roll. Moi, ça vient naturellement, tu sais, puis je passe, puis je dépasse, puis je passe des heures, puis des heures par jour à faire ça, tu sais, à faire de l'entraînement physique, puis de la géopolitique. Puis c'est des choses, bien sûr, qu'il faut qu'on y aille, puis il faut qu'on fasse dans cette constance, ou que moi-même, j'ai de la difficulté dans certaines choses. J'ai besoin d'un certain soutien, mais pas trop, là. Dans certaines choses, je suis médiocre, comme ci, comme ça, pas bon, mais pas quand ça vient à la géopolitique. J'ai prévu qu'est-ce qui se passe maintenant. J'ai prévu la situation qui se passe maintenant, je l'ai prévu en 2019. Puis là, on est en train d'avoir un autre débordement avec le Pakistan puis l'Inde. Ils sont en train d'avoir une autre guerre, là. C'est possible que ça soit nucléaire. C'est nucléaire. En 2019, en octobre, en novembre, j'ai prévu qu'il y aura une conflagration internationale, soit une troisième guerre mondiale. Avec la Chine puis le Taïwan, si ça commence, ben, regardez, hein, Xi Jinping, le chef de la Chine, il est allé en Russie. Encore une fois, c'est depuis, en 45 mois, là, 44 mois et quelques semaines, là. Ben, qu'est-ce qu'il est allé encore une fois? Il y a tellement eu des visites, là. C'est rare, ça, des chefs qui se visitent de même constamment. Ils s'en vont l'un puis l'autre. Ils vont solidifier encore leur alliance militaire, financière, économique, comme ils l'ont fait depuis 3 ans et demi. L'alliance russo-chinoise, chinoise-russe, parce que Donald Trump, il a décidé d'implémenter des tarifs, il a changé l'ordre mondial global, parce que les États-Unis sont encore le marché numéro 1 dans le monde, tu sais, de consommation. Puis bon, ça a tout changé, hein. Le 2 avril, ça a mis fin à un ordre qu'on a, pas nous, en tant qu'individu, on en fait partie, hein, mais je veux dire que l'ordre qui a été établi, qui a été bâti depuis, mettons, plus que 44 ans, depuis que la Chine a commencé à s'ouvrir au début des années, à la fin des années 70, en 78, ça a commencé avec Xi Jinping, Deng Xiaoping, tu sais. Avec Deng Xiaoping, ça a commencé avec Deng Xiaoping. Ça a commencé dans les années 80 au début. Même à la fin des années 70, ça a commencé 78, 79. Et bien sûr, ça a parti plus vite après ça, 80, 90. Fait que ça a accéléré aussi dans le sens de l'accélération qu'on peut s'exprimer de même. Là, pour l'économie, des fois, ça prend des décennies pour que le produit intérieur brut double. Et bon, mais là, je vais discuter de la TRD. C'est important que je discute la théorie de la refusion de la dette. La théorie de la refusion de la dette. La TRD. Théorie de la refusion de la dette, car je suis sur le sujet, puis c'est super important que je discute d'autre chose que de ma vie personnelle, puis mes souffrances, mon trauma, avoir survécu la COVID, toutes les cicatrices, tout le blablabla. C'est le temps que je présente quelque chose sur la table. La TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, bien sûr. TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. Je vous l'explique. Donc, on est dans une situation de crise et d'urgence vis-à-vis les finances publiques. Vis-à-vis les finances publiques. Vis-à-vis les finances publiques. Vis-à-vis les finances publiques. Pourquoi je me prononce ainsi? Car, bien sûr, au fait que, bien sûr, l'année passée, on avait passé à payer 46,5 milliards d'intérêts sur la dette publique. 46,5 milliards d'intérêt sur la dette publique. Ça, c'est le montant de l'intérêt qu'on a payé l'année passée. L'année passée, là, 1,109,000. En 2020-2021, le montant était de 20,3 milliards. Qu'est-ce que vous remarquez? C'est, si vous faites 20,3 fois 2, c'est 40,6. Ça veut dire que le chiffre est plus que doublé. De 20,3 à 46,5. À 46,5. 46,5. C'est ça que vous remarquez. Bien sûr, c'est ça que vous remarquez. C'est ça que vous venez de remarquer. Fait qu'est-ce qu'on va faire? Ben, on n'a pas le choix de couper dans le budget. Hein? Parce que notre économie n'a pas doublé. Là. La production, le produit intérieur brut n'a pas doublé. Mais qu'est-ce qui a doublé? C'est le service de la dette, l'intérêt qu'on a payé. C'est sûr qu'à cause de la COVID, on a dû implémenter des programmes pour soutenir la population. Tu sais, c'est ça, moi-même, j'ai survécu la COVID. Je pensais que c'était mon dernier chapitre. Là. Je l'ai eu en février 2020. Je me suis fait vacciner 3 fois. Puis, that's it, that's all rock&roll. Fait que, puis en plus de ça, mais c'est possible que il y a un effondrement dès aujourd'hui, là, comme je disais tantôt. C'est possible que ça commence, l'effondrement financier public du Canada, parce que c'est le même principe financier s'applique. Hein? Le public puis le privé. Le privé en tant que citoyen privé, bien sûr. Un citoyen privé, bien sûr. C'est un citoyen, puis privé, bien sûr, puis que l'intérêt, si mettons l'intérêt que elle, citoyen, il a payé en 2020-2021, mettons de 156 $. Double, c'est 312. En mettant que ça sorte de 156 à 333. De 156 à 333, ça c'est parallèle et équivalent au point de vue du micro, de l'individu, au macro, soit le public. T'sais, c'est plus que double payé d'intérêt. Le même principe mathématique s'applique. L'individu va devoir couper dans le budget. Qu'est-ce qu'il va couper? Elle, lui, je ne sais pas. Les cigarettes, le Netflix, arrêter de manger, ça va être une décision personnelle des finances. Bon, mais je demande à Carney, mon oncle Carney, car je me prononce puis je dis, ben, le roi est absent. Le roi est absent. Le roi est absent. Le roi, il est absent. Le roi est absent, mes chers. Le roi est absent. Il va s'en venir faire visite là, quand Carney va se faire inaugurer, puis blablabla, mais c'est comme je dis en anglais, c'est un absentee landlord, ça veut dire que il est absent, le roi est absent. Fait que la TRD, je vous l'explique le plus simplement possible, parce qu'une autre caractéristique de l'Asperger, c'est utiliser trop de mots sophistiqués, intellectuels, académiques. Fait que je vais essayer de brièvement l'expliquer le plus possible, que je puisse l'expliquer le plus possible. Fait qu'on va prendre toute la dette public-privé, on inclut en mot 10 000 de côte à côte, la dette canadienne, puis on va faire l'implémentation de ma TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, qui inclut la théorie de l'intégration monétaire, qui est la théorie financière que les Européens ont fait l'implémentation dans les années 90. Fait qu'on va prendre toute cette dette publique-privée, bien sûr, puis on va la faire ensemble. Parce qu'on va faire l'implémentation de ma TRD simultanément avec les États-Unis, tu sais. Avec les États-Unis. Implémentation avec les États-Unis simultanément. C'est ça. Parce que les États-Unis sont dans la même situation financière. Dans la même situation financière, tu sais. Public-privé, là. C'est un taux record, c'est un record de ce qu'on paye l'intérêt puis des cartes de crédit, de dette. On est en record. Canada, États-Unis, les citoyens, il y a un record là, l'année passée de dette, de surendettement. En plus, le surendettement avec les prix qui augmentent. Vous envisagez qu'on est à veille d'avoir une catastrophe économique, financière, commerciale. Là. Faut pas être un génie de la finance pour voir quand même là, les chiffres mathématiques. Juste la dette, encore une fois, la solution, c'est la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, ou quelque chose qui ressemble à ma théorie. Fait que je vous l'explique. On va prendre toute la dette publique-privée, mon 10 000, ton 10 000, de côte à côte, toute la dette publique-privée. On va faire la conversion de toute la dette publique-privée canadienne dans la devise des États-Unis. On va faire l'addition avec les États-Unis. Cet argent-là, on va le mettre ensemble pour la création d'une nouvelle banque. On va faire la création d'une nouvelle banque centrale comme qu'ils ont fait en Europe. Puis on va faire la création de l'UI. U.unité, U.unité, E.échange, U.universel. U.unité, E.échange, U.universel. Le U.unité, E.échange ou point universel. L'unité d'échange universelle. L'unité d'échange universelle, le UI. L'unité d'échange universelle. On va faire la création de l'UI. U.unité, E.échange ou point universel. Le UI. L'unité d'échange universelle. L'unité d'échange universelle, ça va avoir la valeur du dollar des États-Unis, ça va être une nouvelle monnaie. On va mettre un taux d'intérêt de 10%. Il ne pourra plus avoir de plus que 10% d'intérêt. Ça va être 10%. Avec cet argent-là, on va rebâtir l'infrastructure du Québec, du Canada, des États-Unis, financer les citoyens de faire de l'entraînement physique, financer la construction, le bâtiment de 44 tunnels dans le cas d'une guerre thermonucléaire. 44 tunnels dans le cas d'une guerre nucléaire. 44 tunnels dans le cas d'une guerre nucléaire, on va financer ça. Les 44 tunnels dans le cas d'une guerre nucléaire. Ces 44 tunnels vont être bien sûr inspirés par la montagne Cheyenne puis par la métropole de Montréal, le souterrain. Là. Je veux dire, en dessous de la métropole de Montréal, il y a le village souterrain. Pas si vous n'êtes jamais allé, là, mais c'est quand même bien des kilomètres. Ça a été construit pour l'hiver en plus. Pour l'hiver, tu sais. Le village souterrain là, de Montréal, vous pouvez traverser quand même une grosse partie du centre-ville. Là. C'est le village souterrain, tu sais, de Montréal. On va financer la construction de ces 44 tunnels dans le cas d'une guerre thermonucléaire. On va financer l'entraînement physique. On va financer le tourisme. On va financer bien des choses pour le collectif de la civilisation de l'Amérique du Nord. On va rebâtir l'infrastructure. On va financer les gens à l'entraînement physique. On va financer les gens au tourisme parce que ça fait bien du bien. Puis bien sûr, on va faire le financement de ces démarches. On va faire l'entraînement physique et bien sûr, on va faire bien sûr de l'entraînement physique ensemble pour ma théorie, puis bien sûr, on va faire l'implémentation de ma TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, par la seule solution qui peut nous sortir d'où qu'on est rendu dans les finances publiques d'aujourd'hui, tu sais, pour le faire aujourd'hui, d'où qu'on est rendu dans les finances publiques. C'est dans les finances publiques qu'on est rendu à payer tellement d'argent, tu sais. C'est des choses, bien sûr, qu'il faut qu'on fasse, tu sais. Bien, pour le faire, dans ce point de convergence et dans ce point de divergence, avec la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, là, on va pouvoir faire bien des choses pour le public, pour le public. On va financer aussi, on va établir les 2 institutions de partenariat public-privé, soit l'armée du dragon, pour la sécurité service défense, seulement pour la sécurité service défense, l'armée de la déesse qui danse, l'armée de la déesse qui danse, ou l'armée de la ligue de danse intégrée pour l'éducation sur l'environnement, vis-à-vis à l'environnement, puis faire du vérifiage, là, s'il y a des bonnes méthodes publiques, du compostage, du recyclage, puis faire du nettoyage, les montagnes, les rivières, les lacs à travers le collectif de l'Amérique du Nord. On va enlever la frontière, finir la frontière, faire un passeport commun avec les États-Unis, puis on va faire un grand recensement. Un grand recensement, et là, aux toilettes libres. Merci pour avoir bâti cette belle toilette. Oh, et là, c'est... Oh. OK. Oh, thank you. Quite a nice bathroom here, well built, and it automatically goes once you go out. So this, it flushes. So well built, well done, and I did wash my hands. And the 3, see, that's for the soap, and it works, and it works. The water works. You get squirts, and that one. Please take care of it. It's a nice one, and gonna hydrate. I'm gonna get that cadence. Get ready for the cadence. Dragonami, property of the Dragonami. You're on another march, and here you can go change, and if it's weather, you could, just dip your feet and get some wash. That's what it is, So that's what we gotta get doing, We got house, we got cadence, Dragonami, property the Dragonami, cadence. Let's go, information. For the truckers, for the butchers, for the train conductors. Gotta go it for the do, gotta go it for the you. For the butchers, for the train conductors, electricians and the plumbers. Gotta get it for the butchers. Marching for the truckers and the nurses and the doctors, daycare workers changing diapers. Gotta get it for the left, for the right, and for the center. Gotta give it that yet. Gotta give it for the bets. I don't bet and I don't gamble. That's them by the river. Cadence. By the river, marching east and north and south for the 63. Dragon army, pledge your allegiance. Thou art family, ain't nobody born a dragon. That's the motto of the Dragon Army. Ain't nobody born a dragon. That's the motto of the Dragon Army. Ain't nobody born a dragon. Some of my dragons are white. Some of my dragons are black. Some of my dragons are black, white. Ain't nobody born a dragon. Some of my dragons are white. Some of my dragons are black. Some of my dragons are rainbow. Hey, the thunder, let me hear, let me see, and let me hear it. Dragon Army for the SSD. SSD, security, service, and defense. Coast to coast, ocean to ocean. 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 Gotta get it for the potion. Gotta get it for the potion. Coast to coast, ocean to ocean. Gotta get it for the potion. I don't need no magic potion. I just need be some lotion. Gotta give it so to you. Gotta give it so to be. Nay, gotta give it for the left. For the left. Gotta give it ocean to ocean, coast to coast. Some of my dragons are black. Some of my dragons are white. Some of my dragons are black, white. None of my